Hello, and before you get started on this episode of Zapped to the Past, we would just like to give a massive shout out to the following people: Andy Marsh, Cole Hutchinson, David Hearn, Sven Osa, 2000 DC, Gary Heather, Roger McNally, Lee Dove, Mark Fletcher, Etienne Vettingfeld, Niall Bullitt, Alexander Gosling, Tim TJ Walker, Phil Sowerby, Joshua K, Dominic Kendrick, Rune P, Nick James, Daniel Spreadbury, Peter Price, Richard Davey, Dennis B, AL82 Retro, Liam Carew, Dylan Darch, Trevor Planner, Alistair Macmillan, Mark Schutz, Lee Sparkles, Dan Wales, Gary Wilson, Oscar Jacobson, Brian Howarth, and Rob Clayton. These amazing people have backed our Patreon at the C64 tier, and the support they offer is just awesome. If you want to join them and get a mention in next month's shoutout, access to our Discord server, early access to ad-free episodes, along with any special releases we put out, along with anything else we can think of, then sign up by the 18th of the month at patreon.com/zapped-to-the-past for little more than the price of a pint of beer. It helps us keep playing the games so you do not have to. Yeah.
See an ever-changing bills and computer terminology. Commodore skills. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Because the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? Because the Commodore is keeping up with you.
Hello, and welcome to episode 111 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills, and I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. We are using the magazine Zap 64 as a monthly guide for the games to focus on, but we are in no way affiliated with Zap 64 itself. This week, we start our look at January 1989 and the first batch of games reviewed in issue 45 of Zap 64, along with what was also going on in the UK singles and albums chart that month. So Graham, a new year is here. What manner of software has been foisted upon us?
And so continues our Commodore 64 games journey. 1989 is here, and in this odd collection of old coffee jars filled with mixed nuts and bolts and screws of an episode, we slide sideways and shoot at everything humanly possible with our trusty Uzi 9mm in the Crab Warfare-inspired arcade sensation, Operation Wolf. Scramble around a series of unrelated screens looking for any sign of a decent game in the eggy Artura, and surprise ourselves in the oddly footballer-infused, but football-less, Gary Lineker's Superskills. Could you only find slotted screws when all you wanted was a single stupid posi drive? Yep. We also break some boxing rules, not that any are adhered to in any way in the game, so we can put up our dukes and get a knockout. In by fair means or foul. Grab, squeeze, and bounce our balls and swing our rackets, but slowly and doucement in the treacle speed, serve and volley. Antagonize over the complex mining and absent strategic guff as we beat off some robot ostriches in the terrible Terrorpods before finally putting down the cheeses, grabbing some rockets and heading out on an all-new quiz-based space mission in Trivial Pursuit: A New Beginning. Has the journey into 1989 started out on the right foot, or have we stomped our massive feet into a great big dog's brown egg? There is only one way to know for sure.
That kind.
And that's what we do with 1,000 crisp packets. Oh, sorry. Hello there.
Wow. I never knew you could fit them all in there.
Well, it's a skill. Yes, 1989 is here. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
It is. I was going to sort of give a sort of brief overview of kind of any notable events that happened in 1989. So I had a look, and it was quite depressing. So I didn't include many of them. The only one I would say though that is quite cool. But, you know, with every cloud comes a black lining, or a dark lining, should we say, was that the Berlin Wall came down in 1989. I thought it was earlier.
That's probably a very positive lining.
It is very positive. The only dark side to that sort of thing is that it meant that David Hasselhoff reignited his recording career on the back of that, I seem to remember.
Poor old David Hasselhoff.
No.
Yes. Well, that was the reason they built the wall.
To keep him out or to keep him in?
Either's good.
Column A, column B.
Yeah, a bit
You
of
have
both,
him.
yeah.
No. You keep him in. We're keeping him out.
You keep the hassle, we'll have the huff.
Ew. I bet that's his chat up line.
Ew. Oh dear. No, yes,
Absolutely.
that's so. Those are quite a big event, I suppose. If you
It is, yeah. There was lots of other stuff going on as well, but
when did Pinkfall play the wall on the wall? When was that?
probably before it was demolished, or was it after?
I thought it was after
Oh, was it?
because they say tear down this wall as part of the thing.
Oh, I
don't
don't
they?
know.
I wish I knew more about Pink Floyd, but I don't want to.
Or the fall of the Berlin Wall. And all I know is it came down at some point.
My sister was in Berlin when it happened. Yeah, it did. Yeah, she wasn't her fault, but she was there.
She lent on it.
Yeah, but she does have a piece of the Berlin Wall, I believe. I'm not sure if that's an illegal thing to have, so she probably hasn't got one.
No, well, let's say she hasn't. It probably
No,
isn't
she
illegal.
hasn't.
It's just a bit of rock.
Is it though? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. My brother's got a bit of the Cop, which was the original Cop, which was the stand at Liverpool Anfield when it was
yes.
torn down. And I was there when they were tearing it down, and I got a bit of the rock and gave it to him.
Oh, that's cool. I've got some of Hadrian's Wall. And I've got some of Adrian's Wall because I went into your garden when you were
Damn
away.
you! I
and stole
wondered where
some.
that had gone. I was like, "There's a brick missing."
Yeah, I've got it. And I'm going to steal. I'm going to steal more of them.
Just stop playing Breakout on my wall.
I'm trying to build a sort of brick-based barbecue like Gary used to have.
Oh yeah, that brick based thing at the foot of his garden.
Yeah, it worked.
Hey, it was brick based. It had a
Gary
barbecue on
poked a lot of sausage on there.
it. Absolutely, he did.
Enough.
He did squirt a lot of brown sauce around that area.
Yes, he did.
Oh dear. Right. Anyway, there we go.
Goodness me.
I know. So
Don't
to
have
return
nightmares.
to normal things, we need to look at the cover. The new month. We
It
need
is.
to look at the cover.
It is. We do need to look at it. And it's sort of back to a bit more stuff, standard Zap cover form, I see.
Yeah, there's a bit. Is it because there was a tape on it somewhere?
Well, there's that, but it's just a bit more kinetic-y. It's a bit more, it's obviously two race cars doing the Le Mans, isn't it? The 24-hour thing.
Yeah, a game not
so-
reviewed in this issue.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. They're back on form.
It's the bullseye on it. Look what you could be playing.
They're going for full cheesy subheads again. Weklemans drives you wild. It's like, oh, really? Goodness me.
Yeah, it's not. You could win a video recorder courtesy of Epix. That I reckon, because Epic's going out of business at this point, aren't they? Just about. It's probably just a room clearance.
Yeah. Tell you what, though, cover tape being what it is, they're giving away a copy of Parallax, and that ain't a bad thing, is it?
No, that'd be quite good if you strapped for cash at that point and you hadn't played Parallax. That was all right, and an exclusive playable demo of RoboCop.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't be as happy with that. But
I don't know.
That said, we'll get to Robocop one day.
We will do. So, yeah, this is January 1999. There's two cars on the front and what looks like some people at a joust in the background.
That's the jousters, I guess. Yeah, and what? That's they're the people that follow they follow the cars around, don't they, with giant flags for reasons.
The flaggers, they call them.
Yeah, exactly.
The
And
good old
that's
flaggers.
not the sun. Actually, this was filmed at night. That's just a giant orange ball they have to drive around the desert. It's part of the lesser known Weklemans Orange Tour.
The desert?
Yeah, well, that looks like a desert where they're in. I know there's a track at the front, but it looks like a desert at the back.
It does look like a desert at the back, yeah.
But that's
and
not the
this
sun. Remember, that's a giant orange.
And this cover was brought to you by both Castrol and Jaguar.
Oh yes, I never noticed that on there. It's got good. I like the effect on the lights. I think that's very clever.
Yeah, it's a nice cover. It's obviously just everything's kind of what's impressionistic around the cars, isn't it? Not much detail in them, but it works
Very
pretty well.
nice.
Yeah, with the
I
sort
wonder
of
who won that video recorder.
rumble strips at the bottom right there. Quite nice.
Yeah.
I don't know. Wasn't me. You could also enter compiler facts. Which compilation should you buy? None of them, probably. Yeah, there's not much on here, but it's an okay cover.
It reminds me of the sort of birthday card you would get from a relative
Yeah.
when you were about 9.
Yeah. There you go. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, George. It's Graham.
Yeah. Hey, you always say that, don't you, George? See that staircase? Steep. Just
Here's
saying.
a game for you. What's this? Lee Enfield. There will
It's
be.
dark in this cellar. Just close the door.
Not dark enough.
There's no handle on the inside. Bye. Anyway,
Let's move on.
move
shall
on.
we?
Let's move on.
Move
Yes.
on.
The cover,
There we go.
good
That's the cover.
Yeah.
We've got games. We've got 7 games this week. 7
7.
games. So shall we get into them?
I think it's time to begin the journey of 1989.
Okay, right. Let's get into them. Let's get into our first game. And our first game, well, it's a big one. It's Operation Wolf.
Oh,
Operation Wolf, indeed. It's a big arcade conversion to start the year as Operation Wolf from Ocean shoots onto our screens in all its macho, gun-toting glory. This was originally released by Taito in 1987. Taito.
potato.
Was very popular indeed. From the Wikipedia about it, in Japan, Game Machine listed Operation Wolf in its December 1st, 1987 issue as the second most successful upright cockpit arcade cabinet of the month. Went on to become the second. I know.
The Denver Broncos.
And it went on to become the second highest grossing arcade game of 1988. Below Sega's Afterburner and Afterburner 2. That's two games, so surely it came third. You can't just lump two.
Yeah, you can't just brand two games together and go, oh, you're one game now.
Yeah, absolutely. In Europe, Operation Wolf debuted as the top grossing arcade game of October 1987 in the United Kingdom, and again topped the charts in December. It held the top spot through March 1988 and remained in the top 5 through July, when it was number 4 in the coin slot dedicated arcade game chart. Below Street Fighter, Continental Circus, and Vec Le Mans.
Ooh.
Operation Wolf went on to become the top-earning arcade game of 1988 in the United Kingdom.
Crikey, Bob.
I know. And in the United States, Operation Wolf was one of the top 5 highest-grossing dedicated arcade games of 1988. This was a biggie. It was a big arcade game.
I didn't realise it was as big as that.
Yeah, this was massive. It was ported to many home consoles, including the Amiga, Atari ST, Speccy, MSX, Amstrad, NES, Master System, and of course, the Commodore 64, which is the port we are looking at here. This was from Ocean. It was £9.95. It was handled by Colin Porch on code, Steve Wahid on graphics, and Jonathan Dunn on orals, sounds, music, whatever. And this is some of Ocean's resident stalwarts, having worked on various games before. Colin Porch has done stuff. Steve Wahid has done loads of things over time. Green Braille, loads of stuff. And Jonathan Dunn's done loads of sounds from. So, they've given it to them. But obviously, Operation Wolf is a big one. So how did they get on with it? And what is this Operation Wolf all about? What is this game? What is it? Well, there's not a lot of story here. Terrorists have kidnapped some people. That's it.
Don't they always?
That's it. They've kidnapped some people. I'm not sure who, but there are 5 of them, and they need rescuing. In order to do this, Operation Wolf is created, and that's you, the lone gunman who is sent in to get the job done. Okay, so that's it, essentially. Someone's been kidnapped. You sent in, get the job done. So far, it's so Green Beret, really. So why did this cause such a stir upon its release? Well, this is no side-scrolling affair. No, this is a first-person on-rail shooter where the enemies shoot at you directly out of the screen. This is none of this. This is looking straight into them. So whilst many games have done this before, indeed loads of old consoles came with light guns to be used on home TVs. In fact, some consoles in the 70s just had guns as their main controller.
Yeah, one that did that.
Yeah, very odd. So this is not, shooting at stuff is not new. Operation Wolf was the first big arcade game to marry this first-person viewpoint to a military setting, as seen in games like Commando, Green Beret, Carry Warriors, that kind of thing. So it flipped the perspective and put you in the role of the actual person rather than first person rather than the third person. This led to a whole new level of immersive violence, as the arcade cab had a replica Uzi 9mm as a controller and tasked you with staring down the barrel and shooting their enemies head on once they shot back at you. This was a kind of a bit of a change. I mean, we had things like that Mad Dog McCree and things like that where you were shooting stuff, but this was a whole new violent ball game. This was Uzi 9mm had probably been made popular in Terminator, I would imagine.
Yes.
Uzi 9mm. So, it was a gun that a lot
Just
of people
what you see,
knew.
pal. Just what you see.
What you see. Yeah. The gun also used an optical light sensor for aiming, and it also had a geared motor inside it that simulated recoil as the player fired at the enemy. So it was a very visceral and violent and loud game in the arcade. I remember this being in the arcade. It was always one you heard.
Yeah.
It was always very...
it is a loud one.
It did, and it spawned 4 sequels, as well as probably hundreds of similar games. I mean, this really did kickstart the old shooting into the screen with a gun type thing, and it would lead to games like House of the Dead, I guess, Time Crisis, Virtua Cop, and all those kind of things where you were sort of blasting away into the screen and that sort of thing. So this really did kickstart that whole genre off, and it sort of died a bit after more sort of freeform first-person shooters came along, like Doom and things like that. But for a period, if you wanted that first-person shooting thing, this is where you kind of got it. So there you go. So it's the birth of violent first-person shooters to some degree, and here we have it ported to the humble C64. So will this work? There's a lot of stuff here. I couldn't find much out about what tech was inside it. It just basically just uses Tato's own stuff. So it's not like Sega where they go, yeah, we've got all this. It is what it is. The game starts strongly, the C64 version, good loading screen, similar to the arcade front end, and a decent loading tune as well. once into the game. It's nice to see that you can control this with either the Neos mouse or the joystick. If you have the mouse and you can get it to work, use that. Okay, because we'll get to the joystick controls in a bit. But yeah, if you've got the mouse and you've got a real hardware, or you could get the mouse controls to work on Vice, I couldn't, then use that, because I imagine that makes it quite a bit easier. From here, we have another decent enough tune. Quite simple, but a simple enough high score table. The game's UI on the front screen, so I can see why they've done this. Basically, here's the UI. It's on the front screen, but you'll know why, because this is all. The good thing about this is it's all in a single load, so it's quite impressive. There's no multi-load here. It's all single load. The UI itself uses the right-hand side of the screen. It shows you a number of bullets you've got left, and how many magazines you've got, how many bombs you've got left. There's also a bar for how much damage you have taken, so this sort of scrolls around it and goes up like a bar, and as it fills up, we'll get to that. At the bottom, there's the number of hostages left, along with icons for how many men, armoured trucks, and helicopters, or moving things, or helicopters, whatever, need to be taken out once into the game. So that's the UI. That won't change. That stays here forever. The only bit that changes is kind of the top left corner where all the action will take place, and where the where all the info goes when you're sort of starting the game. Stab of the fire button gets us going, and we get to see the 6 stages we're going to fight through. These being the communications setup, the jungle, the village, the powder magazine, bit of powder on your face, be nice. The concentration camp, which sounds dark. And finally, the airport getaway. Now, aside from some speech and animations, this is all very faithful to the arcade game. Screens laid out in a very similar way. Kind of what we saw with Alien Syndrome. They've really gone to town and made sure that this actually does look and feel like the arcade version as close as they can. C64 version, obviously, it's high res in the arcade. But this is, the layout and everything, it's pretty faithful. It's very faithful to the arcade machine, so that's good. We get some interstitial music, you get the message, you're into the communications tower, go blow everything up and kill stuff, essentially. So once into the game, the game sort of takes part in the sort of top left, sort of 3/4 of the screen. Kind of about the best thing to do. It's a big chunk of screen to sort of play around in. And you control a crosshair. So obviously in the arcade, you've got a gun and you fire. There's no crosshair. But here you need to see something. So you control a crosshair, which you move about either with a joystick or mouse. The screen scrolls left slowly in the opening level from the right to the left. But in subsequent levels, it can go left to right. It just depends on the level. So on from left and right side of the screen, enemies run on and they stop and they shoot at you. And it's your job to line up the crosshair and shoot them, obviously, before they shoot you. If they shoot you, then your damage bar starts to fill up. And if that fills up completely, then it is game over. You only have one life, although you do have a continue. But yeah, so you need to keep that damage bar down. They don't just come in running in. They also parachute from the skies. They roll on from the side and pop up. They pop up from behind obstacles. They shoot you from windows in the buildings in the background. They are numerous and they're everywhere, and there's a lot of them, and they're quite fast. So there's a lot of shooting, and it's quite a lot going on here. They sort of come in different ways, different points. Well, you get guys that sort of slide on and sort of right close up to the screen. You've got mid ground and you've got far ground, so it's harder to shoot the ones at far ground because they're smaller targets. And this is how it works. Kind of, you've got about 3 or 4 layers of where they'll kind of come on. Alongside these, you've got armored cars that kind of roll on, shooting at you. You've also got gunboats that float down the rivers when you're in the river level, and you've got enemy helicopters as well that sort of fly on, and they will try to blow you up as well. And you have to shoot them or fire your bombs at them to take them out. The objective here is to shoot as many of the various forms of enemies, be that humans, cars, boats, helicopters, whatever, as are indicated on the icons at the bottom of the screen. Get them all down to 0, then you have completed the level and you move on to the next one, where the challenge ramps up as expected. You get a little bit of a health boost when you move on. Not a full health boost, but a little bit. Which is helpful. Yeah, you're not without some help, though, as you progress, because there's various power-ups that litter the floor, and if you shoot these, they can offer some respite. You only start the game with a limited number of magazines, so you can't just keep firing. You've got to take your shots carefully. I think you start with 9. I can't remember how many bullets are in each magazine, but once you're out, you're out, and then it takes a while for one bullet to suddenly appear, and you've got to try and wait for a magazine to come in. So, if you run out, you're dead. It's as simple as that. So you've got to be careful. So yeah, you get extra magazines. Similarly, you can fire rockets with a tap of the spacebar. So this control the joystick, fire shoots your gun, and tap of the spacebar fires any rockets. It's like a rocket grenade, I think. I don't know whether it's a hand grenade or a rocket grenade or whatever it is, but it's something. It's an explosive that can take down the big planes and stuff, or helicopters and stuff in one hit, or lots of people, but you've only got a very limited amount of them. But you can pick up extras of those. They'll float along the bottom as well. If you shoot them, then they sort of, you can get extras of them. There are also auto fire pickups. That's quite useful. That allows you a short burst of auto fire where you don't have to worry about your bullets going down, and that's great for taking out lots of enemies in one go without having to worry about ammo. So you can really go to town, and you can take out helicopters and things like that. You can shoot down helicopters and the armored cars with your gun, but it takes more bullets, obviously, and you don't have many of them. Finally, there are also health pickups, which if you shoot them, a little P sign, they'll regain some of your health. There's also finally dynamite that goes across the bottom, which acts as a smart bomb when shot, destroying everything on screen. Handy thing. In all fairness, they've managed to keep most things from the arcade here that they could do. And it's all in one load, which is quite the achievement, all being told, I think. The visuals are pretty fast and effective, and they're a little chunky. You know, they're a little chunky. They're sort of Steve Wahid chunky. The various soldiers and cars and helicopters, they're well drawn and animated. They're okay. They're absolutely, you can see what they are. I quite like the helicopters. The sound in game is a little sparse. There's no music, but just lots of shooting sound, lots of various bullet sounds, explosions, and sort of when you shoot stuff, when you screams, when you shoot stuff. And there's warnings when low on health. It starts to go whoop, whoop, when you're low on health and gets faster as you get nearer to death. So that gives you that does a good job of warning you that you're low on health. So I like that. And it's not too irritating. I think, all around, visually, orally, this is okay. It's fine. It's a good approximation of the arcade. It's pretty fast. The sprites run around quite fast. Your joystick aiming is fast. But the main issue here is that it's the difficulty when using the joystick. I couldn't get the mouse to work using an emulator, so I was stuck with the joystick control. And the speed at which everything runs, we talk about treacle speed a lot of the time, but this actually runs pretty fast. So, and the annoying tendency for soldiers to stop just before they reach your crosshair. You'll kind of put your crosshair just where you think they're going to run into, but they kind of know and they kind of stop just before it. And you're like, you have to try and sort of aim, but they've already got a shot off at you. The digital nature of the aiming, which they have tried to sort of compensate for, so the more you move the joystick, the faster the aiming goes, but it's a bit of a pain, and it doesn't, it's hard to sort of get around what is essentially a light gun game. It hampers it. It's not terrible, but it does, it's just a bit of a pain. I did get to level 2. That's where I got to, I think, which is something. It's very hard, this game. And you kind of get used to the controls and the speed at which you move as you play more. But it's like we said with a lot of these games, that transposing some kind of analog aiming to a digital input is always going to be a tricky thing to do. And although they've done a decent job here, it still feels like you're fighting the control rather than the game, which is a bit annoying. And I also found that coupled with I thought the collision detection wasn't that forgiving. If you're going to make it in the crosshair, then anywhere over the crosshair is touching them should be killing them. But you've got to kind of have the crosshair dead center on them, I found, to sort of take them out. Quite often I was shooting them with the crosshair just sort of on the edge sort of thing, and it wasn't shooting them. I was like, give me a break. Give me a break with this. I think that could have been it's hard enough as it is, but it is what it is. So it really does make it a very difficult game to play on the C64 for that reason. Still, what is here, I thought, considering, scope and scale and the thing of this arcade, I thought it was pretty impressive. I came away from this, I thought this was okay overall. I thought it was pretty good. I'm not sure what they could have done to improve this on the system. Like I said, the only thing I could think of was give you a bit more leeway and forgiveness in the aiming and the crosshair. As long as the crosshair was touching something, just let me shoot it, because it's hard enough as it is. Yeah, so it's hampered by the control scheme for sure, but still impressive in what they managed to pack into a single load on the machine. And, at its heart, it does feel like Operation Wolf in as much as an aging 8-bit machine could do. So I think they've done a pretty decent job here. I was looking at some of the other versions. The Amstrad version lacks all the sort of near ground stuff. It's a bit more colourful, but it lacks any kind of near ground stuff. And it runs loads faster, weirdly, the Amstrad version. Almost unplayably so. The Spectrum version was probably the best, not worth mentioning. But I quite enjoyed my time with this. I wasn't sure what to expect. I didn't really remember playing it much. But yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was all right. And it's just that control system just could have been a bit more forgiving. What about you? What did you think?
I never liked the arcade.
No?
Operation Wolf. No, never liked it. I thought it was rubbish. Never liked the whole Uzi light gun shooting thing. Never appealed to me ever. Never has. I never got far when I played it anyway, and I always found the arcade to be quite a pricey one at the time.
I think it was 50p, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was at the time. That was a lot.
Yeah, it was.
The home version for the C64 is pretty much exactly as you imagine a conversion of this to an 8-bit format would be. The graphics, I suppose, in context are okay. Look suitably military, and there's plenty going on. Sprites chunky and flicky, but they work, and they're quite fast, so things are flying around a bit. Playability, well, that depends on how forgiving you are about the limitation of a joystick control crosshair, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I am not forgiving. I don't like the format of the game or the way it plays at all, at being a on-rail shooter when it's not really. It's just a sprite pop-out. Even the old West Bank game we played had a better handle on pop-out shooting than that. And we've seen it before, this kind of thing. Even Platoon had a variation of this, and it actually worked better in Platoon in both the tunnels and in the other sequences. It's still problematic, but those sequences were slightly better. So we've kind of seen it done before. I suppose it's the crosshair zooming thing, like you said. I don't know. You either put it with it or you don't. If you want to play a home version of Operation Wolf on the C64 and you haven't got a mouse, which I don't imagine many people would have had, then this is the best you're going to get. I just don't know. I didn't find it a lot of fun, but I'm guessing some people did. Sounds were all right. Music was stirring enough, I suppose. All of the game level sounds are okay. All of the game is there, apparently, but it's a lot of the same thing repeatedly. I don't get how it's entertaining to 91%. I think the review is very generous without the machine gun element, especially. But I suppose, like I say, it's the best you're going to get. I know that you could use a mouse for it. Like I said, I don't know what type. I never got that working, but I imagine with that, maybe it gives it extra dimension. I don't know. But other than that, for me, it's just a pretty dull shooting game. And really, what is it? It's a bit of an extension of the old arcade carnival, isn't it, really, at its heart?
Oh, yeah. Or Duck Hunt or anything like that.
Yeah, and they never butter my buns, those games. So not for me, this. I remember the big brouhaha, though. I mean, you couldn't move for seeing the Operation Wolf adverts. They saturated it. It was everywhere. Big release. It was a big old thing, but nah, I never liked it when it came out. So not for me, but probably for somebody.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, yeah, as conversions go, it's probably one of the better ones we've seen recently. And
well, it's not saying a lot, but it's certainly it's what I expected it to be. It's better than the conversions we've seen of some of the Sega stuff. So
yeah, exactly. So I think I mean, if you don't like the original source material, then a lesser version of it is not going to appeal, is it?
No, not for me, that kind of thing. No.
Fair enough. But there you go. That's Operation Wolf, our first game of 1989. Let's see if it continues in such a way. I say it every time. Graham, you got the next one. You got Artura. Tell us all about Artura.
Now, let me tell you, somebody swallowed the gibberish book when they wrote the bullshit game instructions to this. This is from Gremlin, apparently. Copyright Sentient. According to the developer, was Sentient Software, coded by Mark Kirkby. Graphics are by Glenn Savage. And the musician was good old Ben Daglish. I'll go through the little story blurb because I think it's hilarious and it needs to be said. Just have to forgive me for some of the tongue twisters in it. Look back through the dark mirror of the seasons to the time when the Eagles deserted this land of Albion. I always thought the Eagles would stick around. They're a good band. Still going. To the ravaging of the Saxons. Look back to an age of bloody war and the mysterious Magics. Well, it's spelled magic with a K-E-S at the end. I don't know what. There's a lot of that with this.
Yes.
You are Artura, son of Pendragon. Under your leadership as Ard Rai.
What does that even mean?
I don't want to know. To do this, you need to find the sacred treasures of Albion hidden when the Eagles came.
Damn them Eagles. They're probably, have you looked in the Hotel California?
Honestly, only Merdin knows where.
Who?
Merdin. Merdyn. Merdin.
Not Merlin.
No, not Merlin. No, we're not infringing anyone's IP here. They've got Merlin. We've got Merdin.
He's got the glowy wand. we've got the sparkly staff.
But he's vanished, Adrian. Merdin's vanished.
Oh.
Your only clue is that Morgaus, your evil half sister, not Morgana.
Not Morgana.
No, Morgaus.
I don't think there's any IP on King Arthur, is there? It's a myth.
Exactly. Well, who knows? But anyway, Morgaus, your evil half sister, has kidnapped Naimu, Merdin's apprentice. You hope you're keeping up with these names.
Naimu.
You must find Naimu and rescue her. To travel to Morgaus' stronghold, you must use the mystical wheel of Caridwen. Or Caridwen. Let's say Caridwen. It sounds a bit nicer. Caridwen. You must then fight your way through Morgaus' dune. I guess that it says done to seek. I don't know what that means. To seek out Naimu by finding and using the rune stones stolen by Morgaus. You can travel once again on Caridwen's wheel. Only by finding all the runes can you hope to return to Camelot. That's Camelod. Not Camelot. Camelot. For God's sake. The place, Albion. Isn't Albion the name of the world in that Xbox?
Fable.
Famous Xbox game? Fable, yeah. The place, Albion, now the British Isles. Okay. The time, the 5th century AD. In this epic quest, you play the part of Artura, an idealistic British warlord intent on unifying the warring petty kingdoms of Britain. I feel like we've had a jump, and I can't explain why.
What's happened? Where's Naimu?
His advisor and friend, Merdin the Mage, has vanished. Foul play is suspected. This is like the story started again. Merdin's knowledge is vital to Artura's dream of unifying Britain. The only way the chieftains of the warring tribes... What warring tribes? I feel like we've jumped a time warp here. Would accept a high king would be if the lost treasures of Albion were in his possession. You have received news that your half-sister Morgaus has kidnapped Merdin's apprentice. I thought we'd been through this. Naimu. This, of course, has made you very suspicious of Morgaus' intentions towards Britain. You decide to travel to Morgaus' dune to rescue Naimu. This must be like I don't know what this is. Maybe it's a repeat of the story in a different way. I don't know. Anyway, using the last vestiges of magic available to you, this means that you can get there, but not return unless you find the runes that Morgaus has. I don't know why that is happening. It's not really, it doesn't really matter,
No, it
actually.
doesn't.
A load of game story waffle can't save this from being a shitty piece of crap. Because that's what it is. 10% worth of shitty crap.
Don't hold back.
High-res sprites that are not totally badly realised in isolation, but which blend with the backgrounds and shuffle more than animate around on a grey and uninspired background of bricks and weird doorways looking for what looks like ticket stubs. You will fire or spill axes as you wander around with bitty nondescript sprites and somewhat effervescent and suitable barbarian-ish music by Ben Daglish while you're on the quest for ticket stubs. It's soul-destroying, this game. Soul-destroying guff. The controls see you move, walk your sprite around left to right, with northeast and northwest on the joystick for jump, and east-west, left to right, and fire for axe spillage. You can enter doorways by pushing up or down, such as they are doorways, at the right time. Akin to that Firelord idea, that's the way they did it, only not in the same ballpark, and don't associate those two games together at all ever again.
No.
The game window is in the upper part. The bottom is the UI with the ticket stub info and score. Music here, well, Ben was having an off day, let's just put it that way. A weird cacophony drones away along with your life as you meander around looking for items and being attacked by enemies all over the shop. Killing things sees them explode in a shower of badly drawn and horrifically clashing character graphics that have no place in something like this or in any game for the rest of time. This is a truly horrible thing. Gremlin should never have been allowed to let this emerge from its C64 Rusty Sheriff's badge. It's a dirty, horrible turd of a game. I will not think about it a moment longer. There's no redeeming factors for this. It is crap, but you might have liked it, maybe the fantasy elements.
No, I didn't. Good Christ on a bike, no. What a horrible mess this is. A horrible mishmash of visuals and controls that make Jet Set Willy blush. I get what they were aiming for here. I think they were aiming for something like that black lamp, that sort of thing.
Well, it's good they certainly got something.
Well, yeah, you know, they got a black something, yeah, I guess. And the music, I actually didn't. The music by Daglish was okay. It was all right.
It was barbarian-y, but
yeah, that's it was okay. And like you said, the main and the enemy sort of human sprites are quite well drawn.
Yes, in isolation
and not in and of themselves. But everything else is just terrible.
No.
What are those brown things?
I think you know what they are. You've answered your own question.
What's with this overall plot? What is actually going on? Why can I get trapped and die at the end of the first level part if you fall down that bit?
Yeah.
You're just dead. Like, you can't jump out.
I tell you, you know why that is? Because they didn't finish that bit.
Yeah, true. Why do doors only have one side? That really, I went through it and I was like, where am I? Oh, I'm in a door.
The one-sided doors sound like a bad covers band.
It's not a texture. It's not a texture on one side of a polygon. It's a sprite.
Not
it's
anymore.
Background character graphics.
They found a way.
They found a way to give one side of a door.
Terrible.
Oh, just rubbish. This game troubled me. It's clearly not finished. It can't be finished. It's another gremlin egg of purest brown.
Yes, the beginning of the Grem eggs. The Gregs.
Yeah, this was dreadful. Christ.
Yeah, it's not good.
This is quite the start to the year.
I know, straight in with a 10%er. Goodness me.
And
Right
a
away.
91 and a 10%, you know,
Yeah,
an up and a down.
That is, I mean, that's like roller coaster territory, isn't it?
It really is. Christ, that game was bad. Artura. Stupid plot.
Stupid thing. Plot makes no sense.
There's no copyright on the myth of, Therian myth.
Well, it wouldn't have. I don't know why it's called Artura. Why is it? I suppose that's the guy in it, but why did he why did he go to Britain?
I don't know.
I don't get it. What's it got to do with Camelot? Camelot.
Camelot.
Let's not go there. It is a silly place.
It's not even Camelot.
Stupid.
Oh, it's just garbage. This game is awful.
Arturda.
Yeah, very good. Turd.
We're starting 99 off with a lot of turdy shit references. I apologise for people who are
scatologically offended.
Yeah, get offended by that. But what I would say to you is go and play Artura and then tell me how you feel about that.
Absolutely. See if you can tell me what those brown things are that are scurrying about that you managed to kill by spilling an axe on them.
You do. You just fumbles axe. There's a few of them, though. They did that in Savage. They didn't so much shoot things as fumble around, like badly juggled things at people.
There's no one played Ghosts and Goblins. That throws them.
And why? Why do they have so many? Just
where are they keeping them?
Well, exactly. Just one axe would have been. It seems to be the thing, doesn't it? They've got to have multiple weapons. One axe is fine. Swinging one axe. It worked in Rastan-ish.
It did. And if you think to go back to Green Beret, he's got a knife. One knife.
Exactly.
Not throwing his knife at people. He's running up and stabbing them.
Juggling with it. No.
Yeah.
Egg.
Purest brown egg.
Yep.
Yeah, here we
God.
go. Artura, crap. Let's move on. Let's hope the next
Gremlin,
one
you can
is-
do better than that. Show us. Show us.
Well, yeah, show us how you can do better. And they tried to here in Gary Lineker's Superskills. This was another full price. That Artura was $9.99 as well. Full price. Full price.
I didn't even get to the stupid price.
Full price dog egg. This is another £9.99 game. This is Gary Lineker's Superskills.
Jeez.
So here he is, Mr. Lineker, in his second outing for the Commodore 64. It's Mr. Walker's Crisp himself, it's Gary Lineker, and he's here to pump you up in all this new Super Skills game. Yes, he is. This is from Gremlin Graphics, and it's £10, another £10. You could buy a lot of crisps for that, especially back in 1989.
Good.
Yeah, imagine. This was developed by which I think a lot of crisps is what the guy on the loading screen for this has eaten. Because he's packed into that white shirt in the loading screen.
Packed in there.
He's like trying to control that medicine ball. Going, oh.
Yeah, it's a bit humpy.
Is it Humphy Dumphy? This was developed by Wise Owl Software, which means it was coded by Arthur Mudd, graphics by The Team, and has music by Ben Daglish. Weird concoction of stuff. So anyway, in the last game, we wondered where Gary Lineker had got to. He didn't actually appear in it in any shape or form, as his name had been stuck on that American game of soccer, that American one we found.
That's right.
And there was no trace of the man himself in the game. Well, all that's changed now as Gary is front and centre here. And
We found him.
We found him and we made him work. And he's ready to show off his various skills that he's well known for, such as squat thrusts, press-ups, weightlifting, monkey bars.
Yes. All the ones you remember, Gary Lineker.
Yeah, after that. Oh, well, you get to do some keepy-uppy, some penalties, and a bit of dribbling. Football? Game of? Nah, none of that here. This is Super Skills.
Super Skills.
Gary's Super Skills. No need for football in this game about a footballer who's famous for playing football.
Yeah, he won the Golden
and
Boot, didn't
scoring
he?
goals. He did win the Golden Boot for the 1986 World Cup, yeah. He scored 6 goals.
Yeah, I think they'd have thought of that.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, this is a training game where you train for very little. So,
For no reason.
Yep. When the game starts, you can play with up to 4 players. You can input all your names and you can select the difficulty level for each one. It's quite a nice touch. You can have different difficulty levels for each player, so that's all right. The first part of the game takes place in a gym. It could be Gary's gym. I don't know. Who can tell? It's
May
just
as well
a gym.
be.
Could be anyone's gym.
I think it's Yellow's gym.
What? So what's his face is? Dieter Myers.
Yeah, it's Coldplay's gym. And it's
Oh,
all
Coldplay's
yellow.
gym. It's all yellow. On the left of the screen, we've got some UI. There's a couple of timers marked by E, which is the event timer, and T, which is the total time left. Should T reach 0, then it's game over. Underneath this are a couple of bars which measure Gary's pulse and energy. At the bottom, there's a football boot with Gary Lineker on it, reminding you that this is about a footballer,
Yes, may as well.
despite the fact there's no football in it. Next to this is a bottle, then the number of reps you have to do for the current event, then your name, and finally your score. First up are the press-ups. So the action all takes place in the top right window, which sees you in the gym. It reminded me of that Jeff Capes game.
Very much so, yeah. Totally like
I'm
it.
honest. In kind of presentation, everything. So our Gary is seen in press-up position, so from the side, and you must hold down to bring his nose to the floor, then waggle left and right to bring him back up. And you got to do 10 of those, okay? Do 10 of those, and you're up to the monkey bars. Pressing fire jumps a rather chunky Gary onto the bars. He's a bit, he's been on the crisps, hasn't he?
Been on the crisps. He's clearly descended from a bloody orangutan. His arms are too long, for God's sake. Who drew that?
I don't want me. And here he swings back and forth, and you must press up at the right time to make him grab the next one, which was tricky at first, but it's actually dead simple. You press up in the middle just before you're about to go to the forward swing. So if you have a count, when you do, you go sort of back, in the middle, count 1, then push up. You'll get it right every time.
Yeah.
It's quite easy. Get across these, and you're onto the squat thrusts. Here, you press fire and pull left or right, depending on whether you are pushing your knees out or pulling them in. So, squat thrust back forward. So as soon as you get to the out position, you press fire, then you pull to the right, press fire, pull left, you do that. So you got to do that's what you got to do. You got to do 50 of them, and then finally you get to the weightlifting. Here you've got to waggle up and down to move the bar up to the top of the lift. Then you press fire to reverse and waggle your way down, and then press fire when you're at the bottom and waggle your way back up again. You got to do 4 of them. That's it. Throughout all this, you must keep an eye on Gary's pulse and energy. You can take a rest at any time by pressing R, which will lower Gary's pulse, or you can take a drink by pressing D, which will give him energy. Obviously, you can't. You've only got so much in the bottle, so you've got to be careful. Amusingly, doing this will be accompanied by the text, Gary resting, which made me laugh loads, or Gary drinking, which made me laugh due to the lack of the word is in between them. Just says Gary resting.
Yeah, it's Mongo, isn't it? Mongo like candy.
Yeah. But yeah, Gary resting. And also made me think of our friend as well. If you do not take a drink or have a rest, then Gary will get dangerously out of breath.
Gary tired.
Or Gary low on energy. Gary breathing hard. And your trainer will step in and force you to rest or take a drink, and these will take more time than had you done it yourself. So be warned.
Why?
So, because if you don't rest, because obviously you lose time. If your time goes down,
why does it take you longer to drink when you're being told how to do it?
Because you're out of breath. You know, everything
Defeats the
takes longer.
purpose of coaching.
It's true. Have a drink. I'm all right, coach. Have a drink.
It's like, how do you get the cup to your mouth? Like, I can't do it.
I've forgotten. Gary confused.
Gary broken.
Gary, no, not what do. Oh, dear. Anyway.
Come on, Gary. You've got goals to score when you finish here.
Gary, footballer.
You are. Now,
Yes, Gary, well done.
well done, Gary. Now, let's get some more of these press-ups done before we take you back home.
Gary, press up? Yes, Gary. You press up.
Yes. No, Gary Lineker. Never mind that. Okay, yeah. Gary, press up. Off you go then.
Oh, dear. Anyway. Doing these gets you a score. And it was to this point that any version of the game I tried, I couldn't get further. It just wouldn't work. And they kept crashing beyond this. So I never got to try out the closest thing this football game has to football, which is kind of annoying. I did watch it on YouTube. It didn't look very good. The guy on YouTube was terrible at it. So I don't know. Irrespective, this is a badly misjudged product.
Yes,
Don't
it
pick
is.
someone famous for football and scoring goals and playing for England and make them do stuff in a gym. Just don't. If Daley Thompson's Olympic challenge had just been him in a gym, then it would have been rubbish. But it wasn't. You know, it started in a gym and then went out. The training sets you up for the events. If this had been tied to a game of football, and maybe how well you did in the gym made you better on the pitch, it would have felt worthwhile. You could have sort of, okay, so I trained hard and I can now got more stamina and I'm better at controlling and yada yada, whatever sort of thing. But it doesn't. So it all feels really pointless. The visuals, you know, the actual sprite on Gary for the press ups and the squat thrust is actually okay. However, they've coloured the sprites in with what look like character blocks by the look of it. So they go outside the lines, which is odd, which is really weird considering he's the only moving thing on screen. So they've got 8 sprites to play with. They could have coloured them in.
Don't ask.
The music just seems to stop at one point and start again after a couple of minutes. It doesn't flow. It just goes just like, what's going on here? It all seems very half-assed and utterly without merit. Even as a multiplayer game where you'd be better off served playing something like Summer Games 1, 2, World Games, Activision Decathlon, so on and so on and so on. Gary not understand this. I really don't. Gary not like.
No.
So
I don't think he did.
What about you? Did you like this?
No. Goodness me. No. Another bloody skid mark on the C64 toilet from Gremlin.
Greg.
Where they've just come along, done a really smelly, dirty shit in the toilet, and it won't flush. And this is it. This is what they left. It's rubbish. I mean, it loaded alarmingly fast. I'll give it credit where credit's due. It loaded quick. And then that crappy title screen appeared. It looked like the logo had been drawn by a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, with his first pixel paint tool. Me draw a gremlin. You did good, Gary. Well done.
Gary draw.
I'm not 100% sure that the game was fully working anyway, because I had sort of weird issues with it. I don't know whether it just maybe read my reaction as the very first thing that Gary Lineker did was just collapse to the floor and not get up.
It's like the Transformers in that picture in that Transformers game. He's just laying on the floor crying.
It was in that position ready to do the press up, and he just went, I couldn't do anything then. He wouldn't get up. He wouldn't move. So I thought, is it crashed? So then I tried a different one. Same thing happened. Anyway, I figured it out in the end just by moving things around and getting things moving. I managed to get not much further, though, I have to say. I got to the monkey bars bit, and then I was laughing at the elongated arms. But but you all went a bit Dick Jones in RoboCop, didn't he, when he fell out the window? The game just looked crappy and lame anyway. I didn't get much further into it. I looked on YouTube. They clearly also had trouble with it. It just rubbish. So yellow and brown. Maybe that's Gary Lineker. Maybe, but I'm not sure it's Gary Lineker. It's maybe Gary Lineker. Very similar to Gary Lineker. It's his his cousin or something, or somebody looks like a bit like when Bruce Lee died and they replaced him with all the different Bruces.
Bruce Lee.
I know Gary
Bruce
Lineker
Lee.
didn't die, but they just replaced him with Gary Lineker. He was probably a very famous gym enthusiast.
Or all his
And he was
brothers,
like-
Barry, Larry.
Anyway, I'm not sure what super skills Gary Lineker possesses, but I'm reasonably sure that this game is not doing him any favours by explaining them with Gary lose drink, what me do. And it's like a simple
Gary
version
resting.
of it. Gary resting, Gary drink. Can you press D as well? It's like what? It's just stupid. So I don't think Gary Lineker had anything to do with this other than his name to it. And when he saw this, he was like, so when the real game comes out, what's it going to look like? And they were like, this is it. And he's like, oh shit.
Gary not impressed.
Yeah. That's what turned him that way. He goes, he gets like simplified like he does in Thing Without a Face. Yeah, he just goes, oh.
Gary simplified. Oh, bless him.
Oh dear. Anyway, no, I hated it. It's rubbish. 10 quid. 59% they gave it, the Zapped drone. So how dare they? It's rubbish.
Yeah,
I think Gary Lineker hates it. So does Gary Lineker. He's like I say, his non-union equivalent.
It's Mexican version.
Yeah. So rubbish, get lost. I mean, poor old Gary Lineker, Gary Lineker. They're not doing him, but maybe it's revenge for that crappy game of his mates. So he brought out that other one, didn't they?
Oh,
What's
yeah,
his
Peter
name?
Beardsley.
Peter Beardsley. Yeah, so maybe this is Peter Beardsley. He's actually coded this. He put it together as revenge.
Gary unhappy.
And make sure you make Gary out to be a bloody simpleton, because he is. All right, Peter. Jeez,
Absolutely.
control
He's got
yourself.
arms like
mate.
an orangutan.
Yes, when they rang up and asked him, we need a bit of info about Gary. What's he like? Oh, he can hardly speak when you're talking to me. Put two words together, and his arms are way too long. Okay, well, we'll put that in the game. It's weird, but okay. Thanks there. Thanks,
Peter.
Thanks, Peter.
My
Yeah,
revenge
so-
is complete.
Yeah, just imagine the conversation. You put the phone down. Yeah, it turns out he's got really long arms and he's stupid. All right.
I'll take the is out. So we'd save a couple of
that'll do
bites. We'll save a couple of bites. Gary
That'll do it.
resting.
That'll do it. That's why it loads so quick. It removes all of the small words. Anyway, yeah, rubbish. No. Rubbish.
Yeah.
What a terrible thing. 1989 has begun with Operation Wolf shooting at things, and then it's just descended very quickly down the toilet. Someone flushed, and these things haven't gone away. They're just floating around, bobbing. It's a poo that won't flush. Nobody likes them.
No, it's a gremlin egg. Can't get rid of them.
It is. It's a Greg, a double Gregor.
Ugh. Ugh. Don't want to think about that.
No.
Oh, Gary unhappy. Right, we're going to take a quick break. That's our first three games. We have four coming up later on. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back after that. We're going to look at music, singles and albums from January 1989. So be back soon.
Gary, tired. Gary, for God's sake, you just woke up. It's 8 a.m.
See you in a bit. And we are back. We're back for music in January 1989. We've got singles and albums to get through because this is just a two episode month. So let us crack on. Number one singles, the first 3 weeks, especially for you, Graham. It's especially for you by Kylie and
Especially
Jason.
for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the things I really thought I'd do.
No, don't sing it at me.
I'm not sure that's the words.
No, it probably isn't. But I was reading around this, and supposedly, I don't believe this. I think this is apocryphal, but this was never going to happen. They were like, we're not going to make the record. We're not going to do it. You know, Stock Aitken and Waltman, who were well known for turning down their easy cash. We go, no, we're not going to do it. It's too trite. It's not us. It's too mass market. No, it's too obvious. Until Woolworths put in an order for 250,000 copies of a record that supposedly didn't exist and forced them to do it.
God, it smells like Pete Waterman's arse cheeks.
Yeah, well, yes, that's what I think as well.
Would you do it for Woolworths? Imagine Pete Waterman. Woolworths. That's all you had to say. Not Boots. Not Derek Smiths.
Woolworths. Woolworths? Woolworths.
250,000 units from Woolworths. Right, get the presses going. Get that recording studio switched on. We're going in.
Minogue! Donovan! Get in here!
Sing together now. Make a song up and you've got 2 minutes. All right, we'll do something. Since it's you, especially for you. Excellent. Great start, Jason. Like where you going with that. Maybe we can get Gary Lineker involved. Me no sing. Oh, sorry, Gary. All right. I forgot about that.
Especially you. No, Gary. Especially for you. Especially you.
Look, I'll tell you what we'll do. Record him and then we'll tell him it's in it and then we won't use it.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear.
Anyway,
Good old Gary Lineker.
good old Gary Lineker. Yeah. So anyway, we've talked about this before. Anyway, let's move.
Yeah,
I'm not
move
say
on.
anything more about it.
No.
Last 2 weeks of the month, Something's Gotten Hold of My Heart was at number one, featuring Gene Pitney and Mark Almond.
Yes,
There you go.
remember coming out and everyone going, who the hell's Gene Pitney? And now we know.
I didn't know, but he was the original singer of this, wasn't he? He sang
Yeah,
the,
he did,
one of
yeah,
the
he
original version of this. This was originally recorded by David and Jonathan and then Gene Pitney, so not the original, but in 1967. The latter's version of the song reached number 5 in the UK singles chart in December 1967. But when this version was covered with Mark Almond, it got to number 1. There you go.
Yeah, good song. Good song. Weird. Something's gotta... He gets all wobbly, doesn't he?
Yeah, very much so.
There's a very famous cock-up of Gene Pitney's when he was on This Morning, meant to be singing live, and they go, and it's Gene Pitney singing his latest song, and then they walk away, and the song starts, and he's singing. He's just stood there with the mic, not moving his lips. It's like, you're meant to be singing that. It's quite
Gene.
funny. It's famous. It's on all the sort of, famous TV moment goofs, that kind of thing.
Dear. Gene singing? Yes, Gene.
Gene, sing. Me
Get on with
sing. Oh, God.
We have to stop this. Number 1 albums. Now, That's What I Call Music 13 was week 1.
Hanging around. Never going to go. They don't go away easily, do they?
No, just go away the following week because it was for 1 week was The Innocents by Erasure.
Yeah.
The third studio album. It was released earlier, 10th of April 1988, so it came out ages ago, but now it's gone to number 1. And it was the release that made Erasure superstars in their home country, the UK, and gave them their breakthrough in the US, this album. So whatever was on that. Little Respect, probably, isn't it?
Aye.
It's on that album, I believe, because we covered that recently. For the final 3 weeks of the month, the legendary Roy Orbison by Roy Orbison.
Aye.
It's the greatest hits. I think it got to number 1. It was posthumous number 1 because he died, hadn't he?
Yeah, he died, so it suddenly became very, very popular for a while.
Yeah, everyone said, I always liked Roy Orbison.
Yeah, I always thought he was the songs he sang were way older than they actually are, so threw me completely.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did as well. But anyway,
There's a weird timeless quality to them, I think.
They do sound quite 60s-ish.
Yeah, I know, that's what I thought, but they weren't.
No, they were not. There we go. So back over to the singles. That's sponsored by Hank Marvin. Marvin. If you want to know what's going on, Graham has decided to paste pictures of Hank Marvin all over the agenda.
Because he reappears.
He does reappear.
It's a Hank back. He comes back in Hank form.
There's a tiny Hank on every page. In at number 25 on the 1st of January is All She Wants Is by Duran Duran.
Oh, goodness. Terrible.
Yeah.
All he wants is a new jacket and haircut. Bloody hell.
That pink thing he was wearing.
Well, it's weird because at the beginning, there's the 3 of them, and 2 of them, either side of Simon Le Bon, quite stylish, quite new romantic-esque, but stylish. In the middle, something's gone wrong with Simon Le Bon.
Yeah, it really has.
He's dressed in pink. His hair's exploded. He's all gone wrong. Nobody told him. Terrible.
Nobody. It reminded me of some sort of mishmash of Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer and Art of Noise.
Yeah, there's that style, isn't it? It's definitely got that footprint, without a doubt.
But
Unfortunately, it wasn't a heavy enough footprint to shatter the recording.
yeah, true. In at number 29 is She Drives Me Crazy by Fine Young Cannibals.
Good old Honker is back. We haven't seen him for a while, have we?
We have not. Roland
Giff.
Roland Giff. Yeah, no, he's
Or
not.
is he Roland JPEG? We don't know. He could have changed.
Roland Ping. Don't know. Was it Jiff? Roland Jiff.
Well,
Age-old
this is
argument.
it. Some, GIF. That's why I said Roland JPEG's probably better. Because he's got, he can condense down and not lose so much quality.
It's a very good quality to have. It's a very handy thing to be able to do. You've noted here that it sounds like it sounds like In Excess. This and,
that does, I think.
And it's, to be fair, it's the only song of theirs I actually quite like. I don't mind this song, which probably is because it might sound like In Excess, which is never something that actually occurred to me. But would make sense why I think this is all right.
I think if In Excess had covered that or done that song, it would have sounded a lot better. Like it would have sounded more like an In Excess song.
Yeah, but there's an In Excess quality to it, I guess.
There is.
In at number 39 is Baby I Love Your Way, Freebird, by Will to Power.
Oh, baby, I love you, Willie. Yeah, that one.
So this was actually featured in the movie Reality Bite.
Oh, right. I knew it was in a movie, yeah.
Which it says that right at the beginning of the video.
I didn't, because I was overwhelmed with the sleazy sax at the beginning, but that's Peter Frampton for you, because it's his originally by him, innit? So.
Because it's got Ben Stiller and Winona Ryder. So it's got Reality
Ben
Bite.
Stiller. God, that's a young Ben Stiller.
It is, and sort of bit of a late 80s rom-com.
Ah.
In at number 41 is Born This Way, Let's Dance by the Cookie Crew.
Featuring Brown Sauce Wilson.
It really did sound like him, didn't it?
It's weird. It weirded me out when he heard it. I was like, wow, what's Gary doing there? It sounds exactly like him. When we'll put the link in the show notes. You be the judge. You've heard Gary. You've felt his tones. You'll hear it and you'll think, that it does bloody sound like him.
Yeah.
It's uncanny.
It really did. Song did nothing for me, though. But
no, video clearly homemade back in the old days of, get up at 4 a.m. with a video camera. But
very much so.
It is what it is. Yeah.
It is what it is. Number 44 is Hit the Ground by the Darling Buds.
Yeah.
Or Primitives.
Yeah, they've been cloned.
Yeah.
This one sounded more like the Primitives as well. Not necessarily terribly, but it was okay.
I
don't remember anything else by the Darling Buds, though.
No, I don't either. I mean, it's okay. If it's very familiar, though, it's like, exactly what this song is going to do all the way through as soon as you start listening to it.
Yeah.
In at number 52 is Hank himself, along with Jean-Michel Jarre with London Kid, 1989.
Yeah, weird that it came back, that particular track. I don't understand why.
Well, it was the album before, wasn't it? It was the album.
But it's just weird that single, I guess it's because it's got Hank. That's the power of Hank. You can do that. You can just make things come back. Do you know, there's images we see of him with that guitar. That's glued to his hands. He can never put it down.
How did he go to the toilet?
Well, that's between Hank Marvin and the person that looks after Hank Marvin.
And they have to thank Marvin.
Yeah, exactly. So a few deaths were probably involved in the making.
Probably.
Yeah. Many Bothans died bringing us that information.
They probably did. In at number 77 is Cuddly Toy, 1989 by Roachford.
Facts of this thing broke my brain.
Go on.
The fact that Roachford was a band.
I always thought it was him.
I thought he was Roachford. I thought that was his name.
Bob Roachford.
Yeah, it's not. It's a band, and they're British. It's a British band. What? I was convinced that was an American song. Not so.
No, I just thought he was. I thought he was Roachford.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Dr. Alban was Dr. Alban. I just thought it was his name.
Yes, but no, that was the band's name. They had an album out as well, which we'll probably come to at some point.
Oh, there you go.
And the Cuddly Toy was meant to be a joke song. It wasn't meant to be taken seriously. Did anyone take it seriously? I didn't, but somebody did.
Clearly, somebody did. It did quite well from though, didn't it? It gets quite high, I think, because it was quite a big hit.
It's not a bad song. I mean, in all fairness, it's quite it's quite catchy of itself. It's got a nice little guitar riff, and it has all the constituent parts. It's just odd.
Yeah, just the bits around it you had no idea about. 8th of January, in at number 17 is The Living Years by Mike and the Mechanics.
Oh, Emosh, totes Emosh, this 100% Emosh totes.
Yeah, although I did notice in the video that I've put the images here for proof, that he does look like the interstitial morphing stage between Phil Collins and Sting from the 80s.
He is. He's a tween. He's a tween. He's the between. He's the tween. If you went in the old school Flash animation or a piece of animation and said, now it'd be Chat GPT AI, put those three images, or put the first and the last image in and said, give me the tween of these. You would get Mike Mechanic. Well, you get Mike Rutherford, is it?
No, Mike Rutherford's the guitarist from Genesis. I don't know what his name is.
I thought he was. So who's Mike then? Was he a mechanic?
I think Mike is because it's Mike Rutherford, because it's his band, I think.
Right, okay, I'm with you now.
Anyway, the guitarist from Genesis, so he's the famous one.
It turns out he can't cry anyway because he's a Vulcan. He's gone through Colin R. So,
who's Colin?
Well,
Colin's ass.
Colin R. You're going to upset all the Vulcans if you could. They won't be worried about that comment. They don't have any. This is the great thing about cracking Colin R jokes to Vulcans. They don't. They're like, I appreciate what you're saying is about our culture.
Anyway,
so, and I'm like, ha, silly Vulcans.
And at number 19, this is where it came into number 19, is Something Got a Hold of My Heart, Gene Pitney and Mark Allman.
Yeah. Wobble.
Yeah. And at number 24 is You Got It by Roy Orbison.
It is. Anything at all. Good song, actually, that. Good song.
It is an okay song, yeah.
I think he released in a hit posthumously, wasn't it? Because he died.
Mm-hmm.
But I still quite like that. And it was written when he was in and around the Travelling Wilburys. So it probably was meant to be a Travelling Wilburys song that they've kind of just let him release.
Probably.
Very good. Sort of has their vibe.
It has a very what's his face? The producer guy from the 60s who did lots of big production. What was
Bobby
his name?
Producer?
I can't. It doesn't matter. I can't remember his name, but it sounds like that. It's got a really big production to it. It sounds like a 60s song.
Well, the video didn't help, did it? Because they showed loads of black and white footage from the 60s.
Yes.
Which made me, this is why I think it was the 60s. And I'm like, wow, it was actually made in 1989, 1988.
Yes. I can't remember.
He died of a heart attack, which is quite tragic.
Yeah, well, yeah, anything's tragic there was. There you go. But yeah, you got it. It's a good song. In at number 30 is Get on the Dance Floor by Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock.
Yeah, no. the guy in the video, I'm not sure he was all there. There's parts of his brain look blank.
Him sing
Yeah,
bad.
I think in that, I'm not sure really it was very good, was it? It wasn't very good. Hank Marvin was not impressed with that.
No, I think that something had been imbibed, shall we say?
Yes, and I think I think absolutely it had. He looked like his eyes had rolled back in his head. He'd gone.
Yeah, Phil Spector. That's the guy I'm on about.
Phil Spector. Yes, yeah, totally. Yeah.
That big sound. Number 38 is Wait by Robert Howard and Kim Mazel.
Oh, this had me in stitches. This song. I mean, aside from the Quantel paint box,
it's
strength.
overload.
God, it's powerful in that one. A dreary house track, but it's quite funny to listen to, and I'd recommend you do when you get a chance, of how schooled the guy is by the amazing vocals of Kim Mazel, because she's an amazing vocalist, and her vocals in that house track are like how if you think about it, how house and music sort of develops over this particular period. There's a rapid development of this kind of sound of the sort of soul singing, sort of a really good female singer over the sort of housey tones or that kind of thing, develops into that. And she's got an amazing voice for that. The guy, though, no. And you can't just keep hitting the orchestral hit sound on a keyboard. You've got to learn to not do that.
No, this will lead to things like, has it already had that? I don't think we've had that. Have we? Like Black Box and stuff like that.
Yeah, not yet we haven't. But yeah, exactly. You can feel it ramping up that way. There's so much of this stuff we're going to go for that's all leaning into that as well. It's building up. You can feel it. In
at number 40 is Respect by Adiva.
Well, exactly. This is a really weird video for this, but it's again, we're talking exactly that UK garage house sound that starts to develop. You can hear it now in that song right away.
Yeah,
forgettable.
Yeah,
no, it's not. It's you either like it later or you don't. But these transition bits that they're going, it's not all of them all right. It's a very mixed mishmash. Some good, some aren't. It's all a bit hit and miss.
In at number 44, and we're going to disagree on this one, is Love Train by Holly Johnson.
Bloody awful.
I really like this. I love this song. I used to really like it back then. It's a light, catchy pop tune with a cracking chorus. Great stuff.
No, it isn't. It is f***ing shite. It's rubbish. It's awful. And Holly Johnson should never have been allowed to make that thing happen. It's an abomination.
I like it.
No, it's not. No, whatever you're on, lower that dose. It's affected your brain and your hearing.
It makes me happy.
Goodness me.
Number 49 is After the War by Gary Moore.
Weird. Channeling Billy Idol and Judas Priest in this one, he is a bit.
Yeah, I didn't like it. Very formulaic and a bit dull.
It is totally, but you know what? He doesn't do that formula normally, so if someone's just challenged him and he's gone, right, okay, there you go, done. So it's all right.
Yeah.
But I like Gary Moore as a guitarist, but his look in that video is a bit weird. It's clearly, they're trying to do a video for a genre that don't seat easily in.
No.
So it doesn't work.
No. It's quite earnest as well.
Yeah.
In at number 63 is Fisherman's Blues by the Waterboys.
Not my thing at all. I remember it though. So, that's something.
Yeah, there's this one. I mean, there's this one. When I was a fisherman. That one. And then there's Hole of the Moon is the other one that everyone knows by them.
Yeah, you saw the whole of the moon.
Yeah, but it's an okay track, this one. Just because we used to hear it a lot in the pub we used to go to.
Yeah.
It's always been played quite a lot. In at number 68 is One Love by Benatar.
Yeah, how can I put this delicately? It's rubbish.
It's not very good, this one.
No, it is not.
I'm not defending this one. I've defended some Pat Benatar in the past, but not this one.
But she looks troubled in that video. She looks troubled and bored.
Yeah, she really does.
Yeah.
She looks like she's just seen a silent raiding party off the starboard bow.
and realised at that moment that it was actually an attack and it wasn't a welcome committee.
It wasn't them saying hello.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me. That's what she looks like. And at number 69 is Cathedral Song by Tanita Tikaram.
There she goes again.
She's off again, but I like her, so I like this, so it's all right. It's always time. It's a bit sick for me. And she's only 18, 19 at the time. It's a nice enough tune.
It's not an excuse.
I don't mind it.
It's just cheer up. Bloody hell, sing something happy, Tanita. God's sake, you're 19, you got your whole life ahead of you. It's like someone's just told her that her mum's been run over by a lorry, and that's the song. It's like, goodness.
Could have been.
Well, okay, but then don't call it Cathedral Song.
True. Number 77 is Look Away by Chicago. I think you have to look away from that guy's eyebrows in the video.
I swear he's going wolfen in that.
I took a picture and then put a caterpillar next to it.
It is a caterpillar. He's wolfen. He's of the wolf. He is. So as he progresses, he's just gradually turning into a werewolf right before your eyes. Right before your very eyes.
As for the song, it's not very good.
No, it is not.
This is not good Chicago. This is bad Chicago.
Yeah,
this is Lower East Side. I don't know
ain't
if that's
good.
good or bad Chicago. I know nothing about Chicago.
No, I think you may have offended somebody in Chicago then, and that's not a good idea.
No, we don't. I don't know anything about Chicago.
That's
Lower
not the
East Side could be
Chicago
lovely.
way.
Could be lovely. That's true.
No, terrible.
At number 79, It's My Party by Chaka Khan.
Chaka Khan.
Yeah, Chaka Khan. That's what everyone
Chaka
knows.
Khan.
I thought this was inoffensive but bland.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Chaka Khan off the album CK. Yeah, it's Chaka Khan. Chaka Khan, where you going, Chaka Khan?
Yeah.
She must get that a lot. Wherever she goes, somebody cracks that joke. She's like, oh,
Every time
Please.
she signs in anywhere, every time she goes
exactly.
anywhere,
Please
probably,
make them stop.
she has to give that fake laugh. I hadn't heard that before.
yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Where am I going, Chaka Khan? Yeah.
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 By a gun. In at number 86, now things pick up. We've got The Promise by When in Rome.
Oh, yeah. You and Gary were effusive about this. Well, I can't remember why.
Because it's Ace. That's why. It's a brilliant tune, this. It was the only song they actually really released. They had they released this. On the back of this, someone ordered an album, and supposedly the album's crap. Gary listened to it. He told me I hadn't listened to it. So the rest of it, no one ever knew anything out, and they just sort of faded away. But this song is fabulous. It's great. It's got a really good hook. It's a really nice tune. It's just really good. However, the problem with it is it's a weird mishmash of a couple of singers as well. And the long-haired singer in the video is wildly out of place, and his jeans are far too blue.
Yeah, it's none of it pieces together to make it successful, does it?
No, it's such a weird mishmash, but it's a great song. So.
It's all right. It sounds like New Order to me. So
I could hear a little bit of that. But,
and a few other influences. But I think that's its problem. It's so derivative of so many other stuff that it got embalmed, which is a musical industry term. But when you're too similar to other acts, then they put you on a shelf.
Maybe. But I still like it.
You got embalmed.
15th of January, and at number 28 is Where is the Love? Misha Paris and Will Downing. We have this one.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it was Kim Mazel and what's...
Yeah, it's just smooth R&B sounds in it.
Yeah.
Yep, that sort of thing.
No need to iron when you can just put this song on. See all those creases disappear like magic.
It'll decrease anything it goes near.
In at number 29 is Be My Twin. Oh, this was so bad by Brother Beyond. The video
Bad
was
is a word.
awful.
So bad, yeah.
It's just awful.
I mean, is there a competition between the three of them to see how high they can pull their trousers up before they literally give themselves a wedgie? Goodness me, his waistband of his trousers up by his nipples.
Nipples, yeah, I thought that as well. I was like, pull them down, man. You just got to give yourself a problem.
Don't pull your trousers down, but just lower them. I mean, no, don't lower them. I don't know, how do you phrase this? Put your trousers on properly.
That's because he's got low polyism. So they've only got like 2 polys for each leg.
He's got no hips, yeah. As soon as he puts trousers on, they just fall back down again. There's nothing holding him up.
You forgot to model the hips.
His trousers, remember, they've got they're just texture.
Just pure texture. And they're only on one side. When he turns them inside out, they disappear.
Yeah, he's got texture map clothes. So we can get loads in a drawer, to be fair. They're just flat packed.
But you never notice what he's pulling out, though, until he turns it back his right way out.
No, terrible song as well. Awful.
In at number 31 is Stupid Questions by New Model Army.
Brother was well into them. I don't really know what they're doing now.
I don't know what they're doing now, but
not right now. But
this was I quite like this song. I recognised it when I listened to it. Vagabonds was a great song. Vengeance, I think, that was a good song, and I thought this was quite good as well. Catchy chorus. Do you know their fans wore clogs and were very dangerous in mosh pits?
I didn't know that, but I imagine clogs are dangerous in any kind of pit.
Yeah.
So,
and for some reason,
mosh or mine.
For some reason, I always thought they were Irish, but they were actually formed in Bradford. But they were. I just did. I don't know whether they just had I think it's the sort of they've got violins, and Vagabond sounds like an Irish. I don't know. It just did. But they're actually formed in Bradford.
Okay.
New Model Army. They're all right. Number 33 is That's the Way Love Is by 10 City.
Just housey, M-O-R-E, dancey. We've heard loads of it. Like I said.
Triple
there's a lot of it spilling out of the music business now because there's a bit of a cash in. So
yeah. Oh dear. Next one up. That picture's just cracking me up. Number 34 is Tracy by Level 42. What is he doing? What is the alien bounty hunter doing?
That just greeted me. That's the first image on YouTube. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the still.
That's what they chose.
I think the glonk has forced its way up his arse. And he's gone, hey! That's why it's got a tape on it to stop it doing that again.
He's gone full on ba-dong-dong-dong.
He has, look. I mean, he's lost his bottom teeth in the screaming and agony of that. But yeah, that's the face that if you want to see what the pain looks like of being glonked, that's the real face of pain there.
The real feel.
I don't know. It's probably to stop it over glonking or something. I don't know. The song, though, very forgettable.
Totally forgettable. The guitarist at the very beginning looks so smug. I wanted to
did
reach
look
into my
smug.
screen and punch him.
I wasn't sure if he was him or whether it was somebody wearing a cardboard face of somebody, because it does look like his just face is just stuck on there. It's like it's been badly photoshopped.
It does a bit. Also, as well, I don't know. You're probably not going to get these, but there was a thumbnail for another song in the list on the right, and it had that thumbnail. It's like someone stood on the glonk.
Yeah, it's really starting to look more and more like Rutger Hauer in The Hitcher. So becoming unhinged at this point.
I don't know what's going on in that picture.
No.
Oh dear. Number 52, You're Gonna Miss Me by the Turntable Orchestra.
Odd thing, but more plinky plonky house piano, yeah. And not a very good one either. Not a very
I
good at
hated
all.
this from the moment it started. From the moment it got
you
going,
would
I was
do.
like, ugh.
Yeah, I can imagine you not up your street. And to be fair, it wasn't pushing any of my buttons either.
No, it's not even in my town.
No.
Number 54 is The Lover in Me by Sheena Easton.
Just crank that sexyometer to pain. Bloody hell. Wow, okay. She looks amazing in that video. I'm absolutely
Everybody looks amazing in that video.
There is that.
I noticed. It's like the entire back. They're at that gym and everybody is perfect. It's ridiculous.
I mean, the song itself, produced by Babyface Edmonds, wasn't it, and L.A. Reid, Daryl Timmons. Reid and Babyface did pretty much every track that sounds like that one. So when you hear those tracks, they kind of invented, if you listen to that and any other stuff, and I'm not sure they had something to do with Prince as well, but it sounds exactly as you imagine it to sound. That very sort of hyper-produced American style, very rhythmic, very Janet Jackson at the time, but maybe a little bit more advanced than that. And I think she's post Prince in there as well, because she got
I wonder whether it was pre or
and
post Prince.
post Prince, I think so. And it's but she's gone from British darling to she was quite incredibly stunning in that. So I don't quite know what's going on there, but everyone is in it.
Yeah, everyone, and I protest. No place like that exists on Earth. Not naturally.
No, they're all too good looking, all of them.
Way too
Ridiculous.
good. In at number 57 is 5 O'Clock World by Julian Cope.
Yeah, another chanty hey one, but not for me.
No, it's dangerously close to blandcore, I thought.
It was skirting the edges of the old core.
It was. In at number 88 is Too Hype by Kid and Play.
Ugh, I don't like Kid and Play. I don't know anyone that did, but I'm not a 15-year-old in America at the time, so I guess they digged it. It was rap softened, wasn't it? Softened rap for kids kind of thing, really. 22nd
of January, another one that we're probably going to disagree on, is number 21, is Big Area by Then Jericho.
Oh, horrible video. Horrible.
The video, I'll come to the video. Again, another song I really like. This is the only song of theirs that I actually have any time for. I do like. But I think this song is really good. Great chorus.
I'm very pleased that you like it. It's good that
just great.
You need to like something.
I know I do. However, I did think the singer loves himself in the video. He did remind me. He weirdly looked with dark hair. He looks like Tom Cruise in Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah, he's got Lestat ears and money. Not very good.
Yeah, he really has. But the song's just simply not rocky enough for the leathered up look on stage.
No, and the way he's confidently stomping about the stage and everything. It's like, nah. Bad choice of video.
Bad choice of video for a really good song. It's the only one. My partner, I was talking to her about it earlier on, and she said that she bought the album on the back of this song.
That's a weird thing to do. Why don't you just buy it normally?
Well, because she thought the rest of it was going to be good. She bought the album thinking this single's really good. I'll get the album. Hopefully there'll be loads of other good stuff. Unfortunately, it was a one-hit wonder. The rest of
it was a category 1 error.
Exactly.
Yeah, she fell for the hype. Oh, don't. They said don't believe the hype, remember?
They did, but this Big Area. Yeah, great song, but there you go. Number 35 is Grip 89. Get a Grip on Yourself by the Stranglers.
Don't know. I couldn't find whether it was original or not.
It's not. Anyway. It's a cover. The original's from about 1977.
Yeah, I know. I saw the original, but I didn't think they said it. I'm just not sure what this had to do with it. I couldn't find a straight answer to the question.
It's just exactly the same. They've just re-released it.
Yeah, but why? That's the question. And why is it got all those weird brackets in it?
Because that's the thing that they do with records in 1989.
Must be. Could it be a CD re-release or something? I don't know.
God only
CD
knows.
Single, maybe. Anyway, probably an advert or something.
Probably. Number 38, It's Only Love by Simply Red.
Sleazy shit.
Sleazy. Demure.
He starts that video off by stalking a woman and then gate crashes a party.
Yep.
I don't like it. No matter what he does, his sexless, cavorting and overwhelming shuttlecock-inspired hairdo left an indelible impression and one I don't want to repeat. It's horrible. Why did the middle-aged women fall for it? I don't know.
You didn't like it then?
No, I don't like it. He's a white-headed freak. So
there you go.
But he was popular.
And at number 30, he was very popular. And at number 39, I Only Want to Be With You by Samantha Fox.
Oh, this is so bad.
So bad. It's just awful on every level. There's so much wrong in that. I'm pretty sure, doesn't she go down on someone in a telephone booth?
There's so many wrongs in
It's
this.
like,
They can't be
going on here?
unseen. I kind of feel sorry for Sam Fox at this point, I have to say.
Yeah.
I think she is clearly being led down the, of garden path here by some nefarious agent or something. The cover itself of I Only Want to Be With You, it's bad enough that she's done that, but it's utterly awful. I mean, everything about it. Production is really bad. Nightmarish vocals of an epic proportion. Euro bass. It's terrible. And then, like you said, catastrophic failures from every angle on that video. Foot stomp dancing that's supposed to be sexy and it's not, but it's just like she's trying to just get some kind of a chewing gum off a shoe. The outright weird staging, like you said, really, really odd tonally, isn't it?
Yeah, really weird.
And then when they do facial close-ups, she's kind of flicky and twitchy, and she's like she got a bug in her hair, and she's just like she's weird. It's just horrible. And I hope now, because we've had a regular Sam in our. I'm hoping this is it now. I don't think
we've had anyone as pop up as much.
No, and I'm hoping this is it now. Let it go.
Yeah, just end.
You said it last time when we had another one by you. Like, I can't believe it's another one. She's lasted this long, and I can't believe we found yet another one. That means there's more Shakin' Stevens because there's some deep dark connection between them two.
Sam Fox and Shake. It's all the S's.
Exactly. So somewhere, somehow, it's connected. I just don't know how yet.
Yeah, we don't know. I've got a corkboard up on the wall there with lots of red string tying these songs together.
So bad. I mean, you should go and watch it, but don't watch it through your hands will be over your eyes.
Yeah, we can't say what you'll come out like at the other end.
No.
In at number 47 is "Looking for Linda" by Hue and Cry.
There's an awkward moment in that video.
Very awkward.
Because at the beginning, it's like the guy's playing the keyboard and the guy's singing. You see it as a sort of separate. And then later you realise that they're sat on a very small table and he's right in his face. It's like, God, it weirded me out. I was like, watching, God, that's weird. To do that to the keyboard player, just to sing, right, look him in the eye and sing right in his face, you'd be like, all right, back off.
I'm just playing here.
When we wrote, many songs when we was in a band together. We never composed them like that. If I'd have done that, you just sat, I've got a song I'm going to play for you, and you just sat right in front of me with your guitar and just looked me dead in the face and just started singing it at me. I'd have been like, that.
I wanted
Get back. Back, holy man.
I wanted to on many an occasion just to see your true reaction.
Back shaman, back priest.
Or I'll slit your guitar's neck.
Are those strings enough? No, it was dead. It is just going. I reckon everyone who listens to the podcast, please, all these links and stuff are in the show notes, as always. Do yourself a favor, go and watch that one just for the awkwardness of that moment. Because you'd be like, it makes you feel awkward. You're like, God, he's too close to him.
Put down your plectrum, you're picking.
And it's quite an emotional song. He's looking for Linda, but why are you looking at me when he's saying that? I'd be weirded out. It's weirding me out thinking about it.
Maybe he thinks he knows where Linda is.
But then just ask him. Don't sing at him. Passive aggressively sing right in his face to make him tell the truth. Where's Linda? Like,
there's nothing passive aggressive about it. It's just aggressive.
It's just weird. It's a weird way of interrogating someone. Make them play the keyboard, then ask them really obtuse questions.
It's an oft-used torture technique in.
It's from the Guantanamo Madhouse, isn't it? That
Guantanamo
one,
Bay.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, weird.
What's that you brought in? It's a keyboard. Oh no! Start playing.
Oh God! No.
Now tell us what we need to know.
Where's Linda? I don't know what you mean. You do.
Keep playing. Number 52 is Claire. A lot of we've had Tracy, Linda, and Claire.
Yes, haven't we just? Bloody fairground attraction.
Fairground attraction, yes.
Why wasn't this stopped? Why wasn't that shrill singer just make her stop? She didn't need to do that. It's horrible. It's a jazz fusion in the background. So in the background, you've got quite a nice gypsy jazz kind of vibe going on. Nothing wrong with that. And then she starts caterwauling and screeching and ruining what is a nice little jazzy song in the background. She ruins it. No forgiving her for that.
You don't like it then, I take it.
No, I do not like it. And she wears far too bright a shade of lipstick to be allowed. And wear what you like, but don't
just not
have
that.
No, not that. No, it's too loud. I say too loud, and screeching ruins a perfectly good song.
In at number 65 is a song about Gary. It's the Mayor of Simpleton by XTC.
This threw me. I was expecting this to be like a house track.
No, I was expecting it to be a punk tune. XTC were a punk band.
I don't know. I just, with XTC and all the other names we've had for things recently, I figured I'd never heard of them.
I've heard of XTC, but I just thought they were a punk band. So they've been going for years. They're an English rock band formed in Swindon in 1972. fronted by songwriters Andy Partridge and Colin Malden. The band gained popularity during the rise of punk and new wave in the 70s. That's where I recognise them from. Later playing a variety of styles that range from angular guitar riffs, whatever that means, to elaborately arranged pop. Partly because the group did not fit into contemporary trends, they achieved only sporadic commercial success in the UK and US, but attracted a considerable cult following. They've since been recognised for their influence on post-punk, Britpop, and later power pop act.
Power pop?
Yeah, I just thought they were a punk band.
Yeah, well, I've never heard of angular guitar either, so that's a new thing I've learned today as well.
What, angular guitar riffs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all the learning. But I thought when I thought Muriel Simpleton by XTC, I thought my initial thought was crappy rap act or sort of a cheesy, dancey house track. Right. And when it came up with a punky song, I was like, oh, okay. That's not what I expected. But no, it wasn't terrible. Worth checking out. Yeah,
they were. They're still going. They were going for years, and the interesting history about him because he refused to tour or something. And I was reading it, but there's a massive Wikipedia entry on it. Huge.
Yeah, I can imagine. If they've got a cult following, there will be. It's Wikipedia is, if it's nothing, it's big on cult.
Cult.
But not the cult.
Not the cult, no. Because they only need a tiny thing, because it just says tiny vampires.
Little tiny vampires.
In at number 83.
Reach my mic. It's too high.
Here, bend down, I'll bite you. No.
I broke one of my teeth in your neck. Can you give me it back?
Bog off. Bog off, bitey. In at number 83, Who's Crying Now? 1989 by Journey.
Big Journey song, isn't it? The song sounds like the forgettable, sad part of a Rocky movie.
Yeah, someone's put their own video together for this, though, haven't they?
Yeah, well, the official one is kind of a sort of them on stage. It's not as interesting as the one that somebody's put together with lots of scantily clad ladies just walking around
for no reason.
Scantily.
Yeah, one crying.
No, it's terrible. The exploitation of women in this day and age. I'm going to have to go and watch it another 6 times at least to make sure I'm fully aware of all the exploitation going on.
There's quite a lot.
There's a lot of exploitation. I need to I was feeling it for them, and I need to feel like I need to see more of it. I need to
make a copious notes.
Yes, I do. Extensive notes and possibly video recordings and savings.
And at number 99 was Wild Thing, Locked After Dark by Tone Loc.
Yeah.
Yeah, this will go big. And probably get to number 1 maybe, but this was a big single. I seem to remember this was everywhere.
It was everywhere, and it also reappeared in little things. It's in Uncle Buck, isn't it? Partially, there's a little bit in Uncle Buck where he's walking and Tone Loc's song comes on.
Oh yeah.
So it appears all over the shop. While little wild thing. Gary playing me this, and
this probably sorted him for the rest of his life.
I think it probably did. I think I seem to remember there was 2 videos recorded for it, but I could be completely wrong because I might be getting mixed with Baby Got Back.
Maybe.
But anyway, same essence, I think. Not my thing.
29th of January is Fine Time by Yaz.
Ooh, the song that doesn't fit the artist here. Really strange because, Yaz comes along, big bubbly personality, and struggles to sing a kind of Sade-esque ballad.
Yeah.
All starts to go wrong, really.
Yeah, some good drumming, though.
Well, she was just, that's probably not what she wants people to remember it for, I think.
No, I watched it and I was like, that guy's good drumming. He's like, lots of...
He is a good drummer.
Fills.
Speaking of good drummers, by the way, and good musicians, and just to return to a subject that we've spoken about before, I found out some very interesting facts about Jeff Porcaro today and the Porcaros.
God, go on then.
So, first thing is, I didn't realise that Jeff Porcaro was actually one of the most prolific recorded drummers of the 80s and 90s. He is literally recorded with everybody. He's a session musician and also in Toto. And also, he played 4 of the tracks on the Thriller album by Michael Jackson.
Wow.
In fact, basically, the backing band for 4 or 5 of the tracks and the production and the session musicians for Thriller is Toto.
Really?
It's Jeff Porcaro. Yeah. So, if you ever want to hear a Toto album, the fact that I think they did that, and then they said, we should probably get together and record more stuff, and then so crazy. But yeah, if you go and look at this, I'll put the list in the show notes. But go and take a look at the list of artists and tracks Jeff Porcaro has worked on. It is mind-blowing. It's thousands and thousands of recorded songs with him. Amazing.
Well, there you go. That's
and he died very young. No, he died really strangely as well. Just as a final footnote. No, he died in his garden when he was spraying fertilizer on his plants.
That sounds like the beginning to Blue Velvet.
Yeah, he had a heart attack.
That's exactly like the beginning to Blue Velvet.
Yeah, he was induced by cocaine, so maybe that was also. But that's the sadness of it all. But yeah, he died in his garden when he was spraying the plants. Yeah.
Well,
anyway, so there you go.
In at number 36 is She Won't Talk to Me by Luther Vandross.
Just MOR, R&B stuff, isn't it? If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. I'm not offended by it, but I don't go out of my way to listen to it.
It's very typical. It's good outfits, though, I thought.
Yes, and you can't argue with, Luther Vandross got an amazing voice. I mean,
didn't go anywhere. This. It's not in a movie. I had a look. So, yeah. Number 37, I Can Do This by Moni Love.
Good rap if you like this kind of rap. Yeah.
This is a Brown Sauce track if ever I heard one.
Oh, he must have been into this. I can only imagine. Sort of right up his alleyway, right up his oov.
Number 39 is Peace in Our Time by Big Country, meaningful and dull.
Yeah, popular in Glasgow, I would imagine. I think a lot of the video was shot there. So
Probably. Number 45 is I Don't Want to Love Her by Texas.
With that weird guitar riff. I don't get the big deal with Charlene Spiteri.
No. I mean, obviously she's an attractive lady, and I can, the band were quite interested in sort of coming in on the back of that, but I never really think they had a huge resurgence, didn't they, in the mid-90s?
Yeah, was it because it was they got a lot of airplay from what's his name on the radio, didn't they?
Chris Evans.
Chris Evans, yeah, he was a big friend of.
Yeah, well, I remember her being on what was his TFI Friday quite a lot.
Yeah,
They were it was sort of in amongst all the sort of Britpop stuff. Texas were
but they weren't
in there as well.
They weren't that though, because I mean that song's nothing like any Britpop, is it? Really?
No, it's not. No, I can't remember what their big track was that they had in the mid-90s that they came back with. There was quite a few. But yeah, I just remember they sort of reappeared because they kind of had this sort of section here where people liked them, and then they kind of disappeared for a bit, and then suddenly just reappeared in the mid-90s.
That's it.
Number 55 is One Step Ahead by Nick Kershaw.
It sounded exactly like a Level 42 track
It
to
did,
me.
and I didn't like his hair.
No one did.
Didn't suit him. All that scraped back ponytail. No, not good. In at number 67 is Stand by R.E.M.
Oh, I hate that song.
Catchy and poppy. Like frothy souffle of a song. They said it was supposed to be like a bouncy tune, but I did find this interesting. This song is an example of phrase modulation, as the last two rounds of the chorus are each one whole step higher than the one previous.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The song is meant to be a self-aware, tongue-in-cheek 1960s-esque bubblegum pop ditty meant to resemble the music of the Banana Splits, the Archies, and the Monkeys.
Okay, not my cup of tea.
No.
Not a fan of R.E.M. particularly, and I remember hearing it a lot when we was out and about in Gulliver's and that.
Yeah.
Da, 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 all that kind of thing.
Yeah, direction, wonder why. Number 81, Eternal Flame by the Bangles.
Bling, da, 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 close your eyes. Bling, give me your bling. It's like a little bling sound in it. It makes nice little bling.
Nice little bling. Yeah, we talked about this thing when we discussed the album, I think.
We did, yes.
But this was actually released in January 1989, sorry.
I know, for some reason I thought it was earlier than that, but we spoke about that. We spoke about Susanna Hoffs. You can go to susannahoffs.com. She's still got it, I'm telling you. Very attractive lady, that. So I think she's got all sorts of stuff. You can there's even like contact details for her on her website, so you could, we might have to give her a ring, see what she's doing.
No, do it live on air. No, let's not do this. In at number 88 is Freebird, Sweet Home Alabama by Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Oh, I absolutely love this song. I mean, Sweet Home Alabama, I don't mind, but Freebird, come on. Is there anyone on this planet that doesn't think Freebird's a great song? So good.
Yeah,
so good. Of its time. It's of its time, but it's so good.
Yeah. It was a response to Neil Young, who had had a go at the South and the sort of Confederacy and things like that in some of his songs. And that's why I think in Freebird or Sweet Home Alabama, they actually referenced Neil Young. I was reading about it.
Yeah, Sweet Home Alabama, they do that.
Yeah, this was these pair of songs were a sort of like, no, the South's cool. All right.
Yeah, weird American politics aside, I became aware because Freebird's used in so many films. In fact, if you go to whatsong.com, I'll post the link in the show notes. It's used in loads of films. There's a famous sequence in Devil's Rejects at the end when they decide to, without spoilers, everyone, they decide to crash the car and tell the cops and everything, and then that music comes on. It's just got that vibe to it. And of course, the tragedy of Lynyrd Skynyrd is that there was, a terrible accident where a significant proportion of the band were horrifically injured or killed in a plane crash.
Yeah.
When they were on the way from one place to another, and that I think changed the face of the band forever.
Yeah, it did. It would do, wouldn't it?
Which is crazy. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, because they had quite a few members in the band and quite a few guitarists, and famously the guitarist played, or at least one of them, I'm not sure if it was the one that was killed or whatever, but he played an unusual Gibson guitar, a Firebird. I think it's got a Firebird guitar. Very unusual looking thing they are. You don't see many of them around now. They made like it's an unusual shape, because normally with Gibsons you'd think of the Gibson shape of a guitar, whether it's the usual things that we see with all of them. Everyone, Gibson, you see the shape. These ones are very different. They look a bit more, I can't how to describe. They just don't look like standard Gibson shape. Okay, and they play very differently. I had a friend who had a bass, one of their bass guitars, and I happened to be fortunate enough to have a play on it at one point. And I have to say, it was very, very nice indeed. So you don't see many of them around.
No. And as you noted as well, it's dead hard in Guitar Hero.
I was going to ask you about that because I never really got that into. I mean, to be fair, I remember playing it for the very first time. Guitar Hero, I played at your house. You introduced me to that entire genre of game. I'd never even played it before. I remember being really crap at it as well.
Yeah, you were. Everyone
so bad, I just couldn't get my head around it. But at the same time, I ended up getting an Xbox and getting a copy of that. And I think I forgot that. I think it was Guitar Hero, one of them I got, and it had that on it.
Yeah, it's dead hard.
It's like forever. Crazy hard. Yeah, it's because it's the really long solo and then a really long out. Really, really hard because it's like, it is a tough one, but it's good. That and between that and what's that? There's another track on there that's really hard. It goes on for about 9 minutes as well. It's a
that one.
It goes on for ages. But there's another one. It's a famous band for doing really weird time signatures.
I don't know.
Anyway, but those are the rock hard ones in there. But I've seen people do it online. The reason I mentioned all that, people who were doing it blindfolded with one arm tied behind the back, one doing it with his toes. There's these crazy skilled people out there.
Yeah. They are crazy. That's it for singles. Let's get into some albums. Let's go through. There's not many albums released this month, so it won't be too long. 1st of January, in at number 46 is Royal Mix 89 by Mirage.
Yes, featuring the tracks Girl, I'll House You, and also Girl, He'll House You, Girl, They'll House You, and Girl, Will House You. Girl, You've Been Housed, Girl, They've Been Housed, Girl, Your House is Nicely Decorated, and Girl, Their House is Nicely Decorated. And the bonus tracks there, of course, Girl in the House, Girl in Their House, and Girl in Your House.
Yeah, good selection
of house tracks.
Very nice.
Yes, go check it out.
In at number 75, sorry, that was it. That's your only album you had out on 1st January. 8th of January, number 75 is See the Light by the Jeff Healey Band.
Yeah. I remember Jeff Healey because of Roadhouse. That's it.
Yeah. But
I'd like to say
you see the guy that played his guitar flat because he was blind.
Yes, he's blind. He's blind. Yeah, an amazing guitarist.
He's very clever, very talented guitarist. But yeah, Roadhouse.
So I remember it now. No matter what he does, I remember him in Roadhouse.
And so you put a picture here, sort of thing, and this of the cast of Roadhouse, and it's just 3 identical haircuts.
It's the 3 stages of Swayze.
Kind, sleazy, demure.
Yes. No, it was that name of that guy, because obviously Patrick Swayze, and then I forget the name of the woman.
I don't know who the woman is. Is it Sam Waters? Sam Waterston or something?
Something like that. But she's Kelly something, isn't she, I think?
Oh, I'm going to have to look it up now.
Yeah, Roadhouse. If you look up Roadhouse, you immediately your PC tries to punch you in the face.
Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Oh my God, look at that picture that's just greeted me.
Okay. 10, I tell you what, I'll give you 10 points if you can tell me the name without looking right now. Tell me the name. Oh, I was going to say, tell me the name of the bad guy.
Oh, I haven't looked at the name of the bad guy. No, don't know. What's
can you
his
remember
name?
the name of the?
No,
that's what I'm asking.
I was never a massive fan of Roadhouse. So, but is Patrick Swayze played Dalton? Kelly Lynch played Doc.
Kelly Lynch, that's it. Yeah.
Sam Elliott,
and the baddie is called
Wade Garrett. Is that Ben Gazzara? Brad Wesley. Is that
Brad
him?
Wesley? That's it. Brad Wesley. Yeah.
Red West played Red Webster. Anyway, Roadhouse.
Yeah.
15th of January. In at number 28 was Love Supreme by Dinah Ross and the Supremes.
A compilation album. Yeah.
Yeah. No, nothing much. In at number 64 was All or Nothing / 2x2 by Milli Vanilli. No. They got their sum wrong when they were asked.
Silly Milli Vanilli they are.
22nd of January, in at number 12 was A Show of Hands by Rush.
Aye, yeah, live album.
It is. It's the 3rd live album by the Canadian rock band Rush, released in 1989. It follows their pattern for studio albums, followed by a live album up to that point to encapsulate that period. This was the period of Signals, Grace and Depression, Power Windows, and Hold Your Fire. It's good. It's a bit more synthy than their previous stuff, but I like this album because I do, because it's Rush. There you go.
Absolutely. And it's a tour de force of the drummer as well. If you listen to that particular, some of the live performance of that, some of the drumming on that those live performances are some of his best in his entire career. He's on peak form there.
They all are. They always are.
Yeah, but him particularly in that, he's just like, it's crazy good. It's
only their only live album to not feature anything pre-1977. There you go. Close to the Heart is the only track that goes back that far. Did the closer. And at number 22 is New York by Lou Reed.
Yeah, but that's a happy old record.
15th solo studio album. Good Lord.
Can't be stopped. He just releases it when he wants. He's just goes to the corner shop, puts them in the tray in the corner shop, and
just walks
pay
off.
What you like. Highly regarded, that album.
Received universal critical acclaim upon release, widely considered to be among Reed's strongest solo efforts.
I don't know much about his later stuff.
I don't know anything about him apart from Walk on the Wild Side, if I'm perfectly honest, and he was in the Velvet Undertones.
Yeah.
About it.
Gary was into it, I think. Is he into Lou Reed, I think?
Probably. Into everything. We'll say very little about this, but in at number 63 is Don't Be Cruel by Bobby Brown.
Don't want to give him any publicity. Don't like Bobby Brown.
And at number 74 is Red and Gold by Fairport Convention. Now, I listened. Yeah, I got this completely wrong sort of thing because in my head I had Fairground Attraction. And when that song started playing, that was not what I was expecting.
I know, and it's all a bit simple, isn't it? It's, Gary Lineker likes it. Red and pink and it's just
red gold.
Yeah, red gold. It's just if you like Fairport Convention, you're going to dig it. But it's it's preschool Oxford stuff for me. I'm not into it.
No, it's not for me either. Finally, 29th of January. Let's go through that. More Than Friends by Jonathan Butler.
South African musician. I've never heard of.
No, neither have I. Number 41 is Atlantic Realm by Clannad, their 11th album. It is the soundtrack to the BBC television series The Natural World, Atlantic Realm, a documentary about the Atlantic Ocean. I went and listened to a couple of tracks of it, and it is exactly as exciting as you think it would be.
But it goes, Atlantic Ocean,
no,
the wettest one.
It just goes, like that. Jesus Christ. I started listening going, I live near the beach.
Whale song.
Just go out and listen. In at number 51 is Fade Out by Loop.
I found that quite an interesting track, that, actually, when I listened to it. Well, at least that's
yeah, it's quite interesting. They're an English rock band formed in 1986, topped the UK independent charts with albums Fade Out and A Gilded Eternity. The dissonant trance rock sound drew on the work of artists like the Stooges and Can, helped to resurrect the concept of space rock in the late 1980s.
I don't know what any of that means.
No. You put they were a bit the God Machine. They were a bit like, sound a bit like them, but I thought what I put here is they're a bit more shoegazery. So, the shoegazery type stuff. Bands like Ride reminded me of Ride.
I have no idea what you're talking about, and I have no idea what that means.
It's just a band called Ride.
What makes them shoegazery? Do they look at shoes?
That's how the fans danced to it. They had that sort of big droopy haircut, and they just used to mope around the dance floor looking at their shoes. Shoegazing.
Do you know, I'm not sure what's going on. Okay.
You never heard of shoegazing?
No, I have not, and I never will.
Oh, wow, okay. Yeah, shoegazing was a sort of brand of music sort of thing where the fans, the people who wore big flares and stuff in their shoes, and they'd just be big long hair, that sort of curtains
You are
hairstyle.
making this up.
Curtains hairstyle, and they'd just flop around to the sort of indie stuff, which sounded like this, and they would just like look down and sort of move back, gazing at their shoes. That's hence it was called shoegazing.
Where are you getting this from?
From my memory, because I know
was you a
about
shoegazer?
No,
Did you
but
know shoegazers?
I knew some shoegazers, yes.
Were they called shoegeezers?
They could have been shoegazers and shoe gals. They could very well have been. I don't know, but I'm not making it up.
A shoegazi sounds like a fugazi. Are you sure you're not making this up?
I'm not making it up. Number 59 is Hunk Papa by the Throwing Muses.
You are just making up names for bands now.
They're an alternative
Are they shoegazers as well, are they?
Not so much, no. They're an alternative rock band from America formed in 1981. Mainly known by me for the lead member with Kristen Hirsch, who's still going. She's in lots of things. And Tanya Donnelly. Donnelly went on to be in the bands The Breeders and Belly, both of which I quite liked. Breeders did Cannonball. Everyone knows Cannonball. Ooh. She formed The Breeders with... Kim Deal out of.
Sorry, I was just shoegazing. I wasn't sure.
It's Cannonball.
At this period, I was shoegazing. I don't know what that means.
In at number 63 is the Whitey album by Chicone Youth.
Yes. This
is Sonic Youth.
Yeah, it's an offshoot of theirs, isn't it?
Offshoot, yeah. I don't know much about Sonic Youth. I don't know nothing about Chicone Youth, but I always feel like I should listen to more Sonic Youth. There's one great song they did called Sugarcane, which I really like.
I know so little about them. I don't know.
Yeah, they're kind of those kind of formative sort of American bands that were doing weird sort of rock in the late 80s.
They're in the sort of Pixies column for me of bands I should probably look into more. Yeah,
exactly. They are very much so in that era. Finally, just to round out the month, is the interesting at number 74, Real Life Boy Meets Girl. Boy Meets Girl, I don't know much about this one, but they're an American pop music duo consisting of keyboardist and vocalist George Merrill and singer Shannon Rubicam. We might get this track, probably will, but they're perhaps best known for their hit song Waiting for a Star to Fall from 1988. And they are writing two of Whitney Houston's number one hits, How Will I Know and I Want to Dance with Somebody.
Big old tracks, them.
Massive. Waiting for a Star to Fall is a great tune. It was offered to both Whitney Houston and Belinda Carlisle. Belinda Carlisle did record a version. It was not included on her album, and it is awful.
It's a good job they didn't put it on anything. There should be no record of that kept It's
No.
it's not good.
It's not good. It's terribly out of tune. She's warbling all over the place.
Yeah, it just shows you how much production went into building the car and stuff, really.
Yeah, I'm quite sure it did. But as for this song, Real Life, I couldn't tell you anything about it.
No, not one I've heard of. And there's a version of Starter 4 was the dance version that came out in the noughties with obligatory semi-clad ladies running around, stomping on things, and all dressed as cabin crew, which is who it was
That was that
allegedly
one.
by.
Yes, I remember that, yeah.
Yes.
There we go. There we go. That's your music, quite a lot of it. We're going to take a break. We will be back. We've got 4 more games still to get through. So please stick around. And we're back. We've got 4 games still to get through in this episode. So let's waste no time. Let's go into them. Graham, you're up first. Can you tell us all about By Fair Means or Foul?
Yeah, published by Superior Software. This, so it came from a direction. We'll come to that. It was a whole £9.95, though.
It was,
and it got a very mediocre 66% in old Zapparoo. The concept is Michael Simpson. This was coded on the C64 by Jason Benham. Benham. Graphics by Jason Benham, and the music was Robert Westgate. They all sound very BBC Model B type developers there. So it's a boxing game-ish. I sort of get the idea of this and the way it was meant to work. I sort of get it. Essentially, it's a series of boxing matches where you can throw in cheap punches and kicks when the ref isn't looking. That's essentially the game. And it's an idea that could work. It might have had legs if everything else adheres to the functional aspects of a boxing game, even in a slightly fun way. But if you're going to have this cheat thing, then you can't, you've got to make sure that everything else is kind of by the rules so that the cheat thing becomes more obvious. This game started out live on the BBC Acorn Electron, which shows in the graphics and colours, and was converted to the C64. Oddly, it was later re-released by Codemasters under the name Pro Boxing Simulator, which, well, I wouldn't suggest this was pro anything, but there you go. So the outer tropes of boxing are here: a series of opponents with increasing difficulty aspects, or at least heights and weights, a ring, a rowdy crowd shouting stuff, 2 boxers stood Queensberry rules style, ready to duke it out, a ref in the middle. And the aim of the single-player campaign, such as you call it a campaign, is, in the classic video game tradition of this type, to defeat 5 gradually more difficult opponents, one after another, to become the boxing world champion. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. You are Chris Cool, and your opponents are Mild Martin, Steady Eddie, Dirty Larry, Fast Freddy, Ronnie Razor, and Deadly Dan. At least there's no obtuse, the graphics in the game don't really help anything, but
no, they do not.
You could never really accuse them of, like in other boxing games, of having really odd stereotypes, because nothing actually looks like anything human, so you don't worry about that. From the opening title screen of the game, which looks horribly 1984 Atari, you start proceedings and then you choose your opponent. Then the boxing begins. The game is side-on. You stand to the left opponent with your opponent on the right. The UI shows you your face in the top left corner and your opponent's on the top right. This shows facial reactions of a sort and a score, which seems totally arbitrary anyway to have a score in this game, but hey-ho, boxing doesn't have a score like that. He's just punched him in the face. That's 1,000 points. Don't often hear that in a boxing match, do you?
Nope.
The upper part has a little image of a person with number 5 displayed in it, which will decrease. These are your lives, and this is essentially equates to how many knockdowns you've had or how many times you might have been seen by the ref if you've done an illegal move. The rest of the screen is the boxing ring. The bell ring signals the start of your 60-second rounds, and the game sees you controlling the play with the joystick to move left, right, and then with the fire button to pull sort of punches and that kind of thing. When the ref isn't looking, you can do low punches, kicks, and headbutts, which take down the energy of your opponent, which is displayed at the bottom of the screen along with the remaining round time. The idea is to knock your opponent down or out 5 times to win by fair means or foul. If your ref sees you when you're doing these moves, then you suffer the consequences of being seen doing illegal moves. And so, obviously, you then start to lose lives of your own, and you can't do it too often. I think the issues here really, the graphics here are not very nice to look at all. In fact, just all over, this is particularly badly put together in terms of that, but the graphics are horrible. Very basic animations, very weird colours. I guess that's the inherited part from the BBC Acorn. That's the roots, because it's just really, really horrible choice of colour palette. But I think you're limited to 8 on the BBC, aren't you? So maybe that explains a bit of it. There's no one can argue they weren't offering a diverse range of players here. They certainly explore the gaudy side of the colour palette. So no problem there. All of these boxes are all wildly coloured and wildly looking. The animation lacks frames, so it feels jerky on all counts. And even though I liked the way you could huddle in the game and switch sides a little bit, even though it did look a bit sort of like they did a little dance, the whole thing still feels off. Landing blows will see your opponent react somewhat, but it doesn't feel very kinetic, which is really a key to a boxing game. You need to feel the thump when you play a boxing game. What constitutes the ref not looking is an issue in this game. As in the thick of the boxing, it's hard to notice him looking away as such. It's never really clear. And it never seems to overtly notice your opponent's occasional headbutts either, so the opponents get away with blue murder.
Mm-hmm.
As your match takes place, the crowd offer comments in little speech bubbles. These vary depending on how active you are, from shouts of zzz and boring to more aggressive and, in modern parlance, probably more quite offensive terms. This ages the game badly, I felt. It does look and feel old anyway, so it has a sort of feel of a 1985 game, really, which it probably was on the BBC, maybe. I think the key issue here is the dated vibes, badly realised graphics and dismal gameplay. There's an idea, well, we've seen this kind of thing before, and it doesn't really work when you try and do this. The blend of a game. This is a mixture of Barry McGuigan's and Fight Night, but it doesn't capture enough of either of those two games to work properly. So there isn't enough decent boxing to call it a boxing game, and there isn't enough humour in it to and with the cheats and things to work in that direction. So what you end up with is an ugly, garish-looking hybrid. Anyway, the game simply doesn't play well and lacks the elements required to make it one thing or the other. The end result? Well, the only thing getting knocked out is your sense of value for paying £10 for this lump of BBC-coloured dog egg. 66% in Zap, too high. You're out. What about you?
Oh, God. Do you remember, and you mentioned it, do you remember back in October 1985, episode 10, when we looked at Barry McGuigan's boxing and said how good it was? Remember that? And here we are in January 1989, we're being served this rubbish over 3 years later for the same price.
Yep.
I don't get it. What's happened to games on the C64? What has gone on? What back then? Because I was going through a lot of our older stuff and I was looking at the games going, this is so much better. Everything was good. Have we gone from that great? How have we gone from that great game to this at the same price with purple,
Yep.
and rubbish controls, crap visuals, and a positive content? I mean, it's just nothing here. Who thought 5 lives were a good idea in a boxing game? Why? Just
so stupid.
It's so stupid. You have 3 knockdowns in a round. That's how boxing works. That's in the rules. You know, you get knocked down 3 times in a round.
This only works if you're going to have a game where the principal idea of the core of it is to cheat when someone's not looking. Then the rules have got to be adhered to make the cheat make sense. Otherwise, if you just apply any old game logic, it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. So, like you, I get this try to add something with its illegal moves, but they don't add anything much. They're too awkward to pull off, and who cares anyway? I'd have much preferred a solid boxing game with plenty of moves rather than this, like Barry McGuigan. I would just go back and play Barry McGuigan. I didn't like this. I didn't. It was ugly, and it looked cheap, and it was purple. Ugh. No, it's not the first. It's not the only time this episode I'm going to be pining for something from the past. There's another one coming up later. This was I didn't like. No, this was by fair means or foul. Just foul. This was just foul, as far as I was concerned. Get out of here. Go out. You're out the ring. Out. Go. KO. Piss off. Didn't like it. There you go. I did not like that game.
No,
not for me. Not for me. There we go. By fair means or foul. Let's see the back of that and let's move on to our next one. Our next one is Serve and Volley. Serve and Volley. Sounds like a double act. This is more sporting shenanigans await us here in Serve and Volley, which you may have guessed is a tennis game. This is from Accolade, £9.95, and has a very, very competent team behind it, with essentially a who's who of Accolade credits behind them, including they've worked on The Train, Ace of Aces, Desert Fox, Killed Until Dead, Apollo 18, Fight Night, so on and so on. This has got a pedigree to it. Design here is by Rick Banks and Paul Butler, produced by Jay Stevens, coding by Lisa Mendoza, graphics by Grant Campbell, and sound by Paul Butler. This is, these are people who've worked on...
So that's all of them.
That's all of them. But those are people, The Train was up for our best game last year. This attempts to be a tennis simulation. That's what this tries to do, and not just a tennis game. I'll get to how successful it is at doing that in a bit. So the game starts with a rather simple menu. I found it reminiscent of Hardball and Fourth and Inches. That kind of sort of simple menu design that we saw in those. But offers quite a number of options. You can either play a single match or enter a tournament. You can resume a saved match or tournament. So you can save and load. Once you've chosen that, you can choose a difficulty from easy, medium, or hard. But at this point, you can also choose the instruct mode, which is quite good because that will take you through how the game plays, which is kind of handy. You might want to go through that if you do play it. Or you can opt to watch a demo of the computer playing itself and see if you can pick it up that way. Once you've picked difficulty mode, so easy, medium, hard, it then allows you to set the length of the matches from the best of 1, 3, or 5 sets. And then you pick the surface from hard court, grass, or clay. And then whether you want to play on centre court by by the seaside or at the country club. Odd choices, but there you go. Just changes the backgrounds, really. Once you've settled all that, you get to choose who you want to play as. There are 10 preset characters, and the type of player they are is measured on 3 bars. So there's 3 bars with stats on either side. So on one side of the top bar, you've got speed and endurance. On the middle bar, you've got forehand versus backhand, and on the bottom bar, you've got final power versus accuracy. So there'll be a sort of mark on that bar, and where it is on the bar is what they're like. So depending on where the bar is, whether they are fast or have endurance, whether they prefer forehand to backhand, and whether they have a power player or go for accuracy. So you can sort of judge that for yourself. Nicely, there are also 2 empty slots in the roster, and you can create your own players here, entering your name and then your own stat. You can create your own tennis player and then how you wish to play it. So that's quite a good addition. I like that. You can then assign your chosen or created player to port 1 or port 2, depending on where you've got your joystick, or you can assign it to the computer, and then you do the same again for your opponent. And if you want to play 2-player, when you get to the end of that, you pick port 2 or the other port, what you're not playing in, or just pick the computer if you want to play a single-player game. All nice and intuitive. It's all quite quick. It's easy enough to work your way through. It's fine. No problem here whatsoever. Once you've picked all that, it's onto the game itself. So the game is seen from side on, slightly elevated view, very similar to international tennis rather than on-court tennis. Players are at both ends, so both sides of the screen. It's here that the real difference in the game starts to make itself apparent as to what we see in normal tennis games. So I'll try and explain this. When you are serving, the first thing you do is you press the fire button. And so normally this would throw the ball up. You press the fire button again when it was in mid-arc, something like that, and you would animate, and you normally arcade style controls. That doesn't happen here. They've gone for a more simulation type style. So what happens is when you press fire, it makes a box appear above your player with, and I will say this at first, a confusing series of things within this box. So in the top right of the box is the aim section. And what this does, it has a top-down view of the court and has a yellow dot in it. To the left, along the left-hand side of the box, there's 3 columns. The rightmost one of these has the letters, when you're serving, it has T, S, and F in kind of their own separate boxes going upwards. Then there's a blank column, and then there's the accuracy column. There's a bar just below halfway down on it. So when you press fire again, the blank middle bar will start filling up. And the best way to think of this is leaderboard and the power and snap control. As the power goes up, so the bar starts going up, and then while it's filling up, you can move the yellow dot in the aim part of the box to decide where you want the shot to go. Pressing fire as the bar rises, deciding what shot you want to do from either T, S, or F. Now, I'm not quite sure what they were. I couldn't find any instructions for this, so I don't know. I work out the other ones, but TSRF for the serve, it didn't really seem to make much difference. Once this is done, the accuracy part starts to fill from the top downwards, and you have to press the fire button when in the green part, depending on the difficulty shot, there's a green sort of bar part will appear around the accuracy bar, the middle bit, and you press fire button when it's in that bar, and then you'll hit the ball and you'll get the shot in. Kind of like leaderboard with your hook and your snap. It's very similar, so obviously they've gone for that. Get it right, and your player will make the shot, and the ball will be on its way to the other side of the court. Once the serve is done, and we're into the point, you'll then get another box saying which part of the court you want your player to move to. So there's the overhead view of the shot, the court within the box, and there's a big yellow square which you can move around on it, and you press fire, and then your player will head to that section of the court. When the ball is returned, the sequence is similar to the serve, except you have different shot types. You've got a volley and smash, depending on where the ball is and you are. There's a lob, I think, or a long shot, I'm not sure, or a forehand backhand. But again, you aim whilst the bar is moving up, press fire to choose the shot, and hit fire again as it's coming down for accuracy. This might sound quite complicated. The amount of green around your accuracy and the speed at which the bar moves down is reliant on where you are in relation to the ball and the nearness you are doing the shot. So if you're quite near the shot when you picked it, it's coming down, you've got to go down fast, and you've got a little time to sort of react hard. This sounds quite complicated, and at first it's a bit bewildering, but it's quite easy to get into once you actually get your head around it. It's not too difficult. The whole thing here is be positioned well, and you've got plenty of time and lots of green when it's coming down to hit, but be out of place. And you have to get it like really bang on, and it'll be fast, and you'll better like to do that. So you'll hit it out or you'll miss the ball altogether, and that's what'll go on. There's also a fatigue bar that affects the shot. And also once you've made the shot, it will give you an error rating as to how far off perfect you were. I don't know if that has much bearing on anything, but it probably to the left or right that it goes, but that's what it goes. Okay. So that's what's going on. This is how it's doing it. It's different, but you kind of get used to it. Visually, it's okay. The backgrounds are nice enough in that sort of accolade type style that we've seen. The players are okay. They're a little blocky. I'll come to some other bits in a moment. Sound is perfunctory. There's some crowd noises, tunk as the ball hits and tunk as it bounces. There's a very typical American-style theme tune on the title screen, and that's about it. It's nothing out of the ordinary. It's okay. I think I would have liked to have seen some variety in the type of players that you play as. Some choice around colours and representation, as it's just two white dudes in white outfits. That's all I got all the time. So they could have done maybe a little bit of sort of more options there, perhaps. The problem is, this is all a bit redundant, because I've not mentioned the main issue with the game, and that is the speed. It's really slow. And I mean really, really slow. And this affects everything. It makes the animations jerky and not very smooth at all. The movement of the ball is similar, being slow and jerky and as it moves across the screen. And I can't help but feel this is all because of the control system they've chosen. In trying to give the player the time to aim, choose a shot, get the timing right, they've had to slow things down so much that it robs the game of any impact or enjoyment or vicarious thrill of playing tennis, which is quite a fast-paced game. Not here, it isn't. This becomes a chore to play. And it's a shame, really, because I think there's actually a decent and interesting game of tennis here. There could be a decent game here. To test this, I stuck the emulator on 200% speed, and the game was suddenly far more enjoyable, way more enjoyable. Now, I don't know if it was a thing of the 64. I think this could have run faster. I think they've slowed it down to actually allow you to do all the things. But you could still do it at double speed. So I don't know, because we've seen what they can program. We've seen Ace of Aces. We've seen all those kind of things. They're not slouching the programming skills. I think they made a conscious choice here to make it slow. I don't know. I don't know whether it's because it's the PAL version. I don't know. The animations, when it's faster, seemed smoother. The speed of the ball was better. Selecting shots was still easy enough, and I was able to have a decent game of tennis. It felt much better. But it's only in doing that the game becomes fun in any way, which is a real shame. There's an interesting take on the tennis game here, unfortunately, in its original state. And if I do think about it, it is, it's probably too overcomplicated. But if you forgive it for what it is, and then it's just you can't play it because it's too slow, it's too dull, and it's too boring, and that's a real shame. Because if they'd have sped it up, if they could have sped it up, there's an actual okay game of tennis here, but it's a bit overly complicated. And in trying to do that, they've just lost all momentum, speed, punch, and enjoyability. So it's just it's out rather than in, as far as I'm concerned. What did you think?
I don't care how well you're simulating the game dynamics and rules. If you're making a sports game of something that has the fluidity and motion and speed of tennis, it's got to be fast.
Yeah.
It's just simple as that. This isn't. It's painfully slow. Now, I get what they're doing, and I get all of that, but nobody wants to play tennis in slow motion. Nobody.
No, exactly. No.
It's a fast game. That's the whole point of tennis. No, it's like, imagine table tennis played slowly.
No.
It doesn't work. Lots of player stats, bar charts, speed and endurance indicators, all the Commodore font text you can eat in this game, with a strange music that sounds like someone performing some kind of synth bass solo.
Yeah, it's weird.
But when you get to the exciting part, the tennis game, it's serve, slow, bounce, slow, return. It's just dreadfully slow, like match day 2 slow. And if you can forgive it for that, and and you're into your slow motion tennis games and whatnot, and you need a lot more patience than I've got, I'll tell you, then you probably get something from it. If technical invention and taking tennis down to its strategic viewpoint is what you're all about, then I imagine this is for you. But for me, a tennis game is predicated on its speed of serve to return ratio.
Yes,
and I can't. We've seen other tennis games do better than this. In fact, one of the very first games we ever reviewed for the podcast was a tennis game that's better than this.
On-court tennis.
Yeah. So I get what they were trying to do, but tennis is, maybe it's a strategic game. It would have been better if you made the strategic choices and then let the match play out and be the coach of a tennis star or something. That might have worked better for this. As this stands, I don't like games that are in slow motion like this. It kills the sport, as you rightly point out, and not for me. Full price game. It's the first big miss I've seen from Accolade, actually, because of that. And I sort of get the idea, but it just really doesn't work. Maybe on other formats, if it's on other formats, maybe it works better. I don't know. I didn't think much to this at all. So you can serve and volley something else for me. So. Yeah,
it's a shame. This is a shame. Just too slow. Too slow.
No,
there we go.
Slow bouncing balls. In certain instances, in certain situations, in certain industries. That's the kind of thing you're aiming for, but not this one.
It's certainly not. No. There we go. That's Serve and Volley. Slow. Let's move along. We've still got 2 left to crack on through. So let's move along to our next one. And I apologise, Graham. I'm sorry I gave you these slots this week. It's very bad. Tell us about Terrorpods, which sounds like terrible slow balls again.
Just,
Pair of Terrorpods.
honestly, this thing. This is, I don't think I've written down it. It's basically Signosis. For some reason, I've not written down.
Yeah. It is
It's
Signosis.
Signosis, but I've not written down who programmed it. Let me just quickly find that.
I don't think there's any things for it. That's why I think I couldn't find anything. So icon
Maybe
design
that's
is
why
the
I didn't
only
put it in.
is the only thing I could see, which is on the title
Any
screen.
credit. Yeah. I thought I might have some more information to give you, but so Terrorpods was a fairly big deal on the old 16-bit, as I remember it. This is published by Melbourne House and copyright Signosis for the C64, I'm guessing.
Eee.
That combination should not be. And the funny thing is, the cover art for this was by a very famous artist, really famous cover art artist who did like quite amazing sci-fi drawings from some of those early sci-fi books. Really famous. I forget his name as well. Anyway,
I'll find
Terrorpods.
it. Let's have a look.
So, so I'll read a little bit of the blurb. There's
Roger
quite a lot
Dean.
to the blurb. Roger Dean, yeah, so very famous Roger Dean.
Yeah.
However, let me just tell you the secret thing, by the way. When you got this game, you got a poster with it of a scene with a Terrorpod, in fact. Only that, and it says, includes poster. In the small print, if you can be bothered to find it, that poster is not by Roger Dean. It's just inspired by Roger Dean.
Oh, no.
There you go. Bit sneaky trick, that, isn't it?
Very.
So it's basically someone said, "Well, I drew the outlines. He had the provisioning sketches, but I coloured it in." That is genuinely what that is. Anyway, so the game then. Some missions, Adrian, have suicide written all over them, and I would advise that if they do, don't get involved. But since we have to, this was one of them. Again, I ask myself. Games that have these stories that are written in this first person make me nervous. What the hell am I doing on Colian? Okay. Stuck out on the edge of System 7, Colian has never been the most hospitable place in the universe. The only thing this asteroid has going for it is the fact that it is very, very rich in mineral deposits. The kind of mineral deposits, Adrian, that people will kill for. Kill!
Oof.
There's detonite, a powerful explosive, ironically named, that paradoxically is also capable of regenerating molecular structures if used appropriately. Some stupid idiot wrote this, Adrian. Some stupid idiot. And then also it's got something called quasar. I think
you find it was not written, but it was inspired by some stupid
inspired
idiot.
by somebody. So quasar is an energy-giving crystal capable of fueling almost any craft designed by sentient beings. Sod the non-sentient ones. The robots can't have any quasar. Sorry, no good for you.
No quasar for you.
So I'm going to get a poster made that says no quasar.
It's a picture of a Terrorpod with a line through it. No quasar.
Yeah. No quasar for you. It's sorry, you running on quasar. Get out. Let's serve your kind here. You droids, leave them outside.
A quasar.
Yes, that's quoting Star Wars.
Quasar.
And there's Illuma, the hardest metal known to man, almost indestructible. So it can't be the hardest metal known to man then.
It's almost.
It's almost indestructible. Why say that? Why not just, if it's the hardest metal, why not have it? I mean, the hardest metal known to man, as we all know, is probably Metallica, really. But the hardest metal known to man, almost indestructible. Why say that? It annoys me when they do that. It says almost indestructible. It is ideal for making weapons of war. I would argue an almost indestructible metal has many uses, not just weapons of war. Anyway, with stuff like this, these are the words of the instructions. With stuff like this lying around, trouble is never likely to be far away. Mm-hmm. Over the years, a sophisticated mining operation was established on Colian. 6 separate mining colonies, you can start to see where this is heading, were set up, each with its mines, dumps, stores, toilets, and resource centers linked together by a complicated system of shuttles to transport minerals through the network. I think you can see where it's heading. Everything was going fine. New wealth was being extracted and stockpiled daily. Then the military arrived to set up combined mining and manufacturing centers where they began making weapons from the precious Illuma. Defense and surveillance systems were constructed to protect the valuable assets and manufacturing plants on the asteroid as well. Soon, all was running smoothly before a barrage of missiles from the mothership hit home. It happened. An Empire mothership arrived from deep space and set up a stationary orbit around Colian, the most valuable asteroid in the universe. We've already said that. You repeat yourself, you stupid story. An Empire mothership is the most awesome warcraft. I'm guessing that the 15-year-old kid who ever wrote this took over at this point. The most powerful agent of destruction ever constructed. With its behemoth lurking in disguise above Colian, something dramatic was going to happen. And it did. Pinpoint missile attacks launched from the mothership took out the defense systems and destroyed the automated shuttle systems that linked the mines and installations on the surface of Colian. The few humans who tended the automated mining, why would they have humans attending automated mines? We don't know why. They just did. Refining and construction systems cowered in fear, waiting for the end to come. But they were spared from painful deaths.
Don't look for
I know.
logic.
The Empire had other plans, Adrian, other plans. Destruction of the installations on the surface of Kolian would have been truly wasteful. Occupation was the goal of the Empire's expeditionary force. Expeditionary forces don't occupy. That's an occupying force. It's a different kind of force.
You're not wrong.
Human personnel were enslaved rather than killed. The mining and weapons, but it's an automated plant. I'm doing it again. Sorry, I do that sometimes. The logic grenades.
Stop asking questions.
The mining and weapon manufacturing systems set up by the military were taken over and modified so they could make components for the most deadly of surface weapons, fearsome Terrorpod fighting machines. Finally, we found out what a Terrorpod's for. 6 paragraphs of guff to find out that it was a robot set up to, a security droid. And they can't use that bloody fuel for it, can they? Because it's not robot compatible. What they're going to use to fuel these damn things? Stupid underlying manufacturing problems.
Someone hasn't thought this through.
Machines. So they made these fearsome, now get this, fearsome Terrorpod fighting machines. Okay. Machines the Empire required to bring about its avowed aim, conquest of every planet in space that supports intelligent life. I'm guessing they're ramping up their plan because they've started on a little asteroid mining colony. It's a big leap to go from that to we're going to conquer all intergalactic life. Anyway, very soon the purpose of the mothership becomes clear. The Empire planned to make Terrorpod components on the surface of Kolian and then effect final assembly on board the mothership. Okay, so you're making the Terrorpods on the planet's surface and then you've got to ship them up to the mothership. Oh, just shut up. Anyway, this was the chance the Federation could not afford to miss, an opportunity to discover the secret of Terrorpod manufacture. All that to be achieved was the collection of blah, blah, blah. But this goes on for ages. And then, but essentially, the long and the short of all of this is that you've got to drive a defense strategy vehicle, or a DSV as it's known to us agents, Adrian, for a few months to keep a low profile, exploring the trading colonies and mapping out their frightened colonists and finding out what everything is. So that you can take control back. So you've got you've got a full list of computerized maps. You've got everything scanned. You can sort of scoot about the surface. The mothership then, unfortunately, learns of your existence and it changes strategy so that the Terrorpods that they were stockpiling on the mothership, they deploy more to the surface to defend against this vehicle that's just sniffing about. But they're also programmed to start manufacturing other units and it's all getting complicated and I don't understand why. It's the wrappings of a crazy manufacturing mine-based story into some global intergalactic dominating force of a mothership for building robots with component parts they don't have. I don't get why. Anyway, you need 1,500 detonite units to prime a radio beacon to approach one, and then lock on after that. You can blow them up, and you need 1,500 fuel units on board the DSV to affect the warp. Okay, so the overall aim of the game is to destroy all the Terrorpods that lurk in a colony sector, and then collect a Terrorpod component from one of the manufacturing units before warping to the next sector and continuing the mission. Success only comes when all 6 sectors have been cleared of Terrorpods and a full set of components collected for delivery to the Federation. You can collect fuel or quasar from the mines, and you can collect explosive detonite, or detonite as it makes things better, which is dotted around and you have to sort of explore and try and find it. You can collect those in different ways, but you have to press the B key because that loads quasar. I'm not even going to go into any more of it.
Don't do it. It's not worth it.
Because all of that stuff I told you there has so little bearing on what you actually do in this game. I may as well just describe the flavour of an apple when it's first eaten by a chimpanzee on a Wednesday. Only the chimpanzees know for sure.
They do.
So this is just a really confusing mess of a game. I mean, that description, and I'll talk about what it looks like as well. So I think the aim and the ambition of the game was very high, but in the classic tradition of these things, the implementation in terms of game design just tends to be shockingly poor. Principally, the idea is to track, mine, and collect resources and manage them to progress, all the while avoiding Terrorpods and the missiles from the mothership. This is played out in a similar way to the 16-bit versions, only manufacturing, clunky, and only malfunctioning as you play it, very clunky and very badly controlled. You start the game on a title screen showing you the weird robo-ostrich-like Terrorpods. From here, you can select to view the keyboard controls or start the game. Note, the controls are not in the manual in totality, and so you're best writing them down at this point because you can't actually access them from inside the game. Mm-hmm. That is what we call a complete up.
Yes. Yeah.
Because so you've got no idea how to control the game, and it's keyboard and joystick control.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have written them down, you've taken the time to do that. You'll also notice that there's bugs in the game because the controls jump around. So as you're controlling the game, the keys that did one thing that you were told would do a thing change. They've changed halfway through.
Yep.
Like, why have you changed? Why is that doing that? So the game view, once you start, it's a confusing UI. At the top, it shows the score, the fuel, the lives, I think, the amount of detonite you have, all in a standard Commodore font in little boxes with no labels. It's pretty naff. Under that is your game window, which initially looks like one of the zoom scroll type games or a game where sprites zoom at you, kind of Skyfoxy, but nothing like that, but that kind of look. So you get a mountainous horizon line with a pixel shaded grey gradient ground, and then more UI under that with more numeric scores of some kind in Commodore font. It's all very confusing, and none of it's adequately explained anywhere. Oddly, you control left and right with the joystick, but forward and back with the Q&A keys. I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't understand why. I don't get it. I'm never going to get that. I'm never going to get that choice. Why? Why did they do that? Why? There's no radar either, but there is a confusing map, which you'll see by pressing the M key. The view is a bewildering arrangement of icons on a black background that's supposed to be locations of the fuel or detonite mines, which you think you're meant to collect, I think, by putting your crosshairs over and pressing the B key, I think. There is a nice sort of parallax effect when you move around, and you can sort of go backwards and forwards too. You will but each doing that uses all your fuel up, by the way, and that's a very limited resource unless you're gathering more fuel from however you do that.
But you have to move to them to get fuel.
Yeah, but it's stupid. I'll talk about the 16-bit version in a minute and why that's different. But so you'll periodically get attacked by either the mothership that sits on the top of the horizon at all times and launches missiles at you pretty much all the time, but now and again. And you can use your shield, limited though it be, by pressing the spacebar when it does. Moving costs you fuel. You have limited weapons, missiles, shields, fuel, and resources in general. So mining, I think, tops those up. You can also restore bases for some purpose that's never explained. Pressing P will load detonate into your missile warheads for whatever reason, just does. And you can launch missiles with the L key, which sort of makes sense in terms of launch, but that actually changed halfway through the game to the S key. Anyway, note you have two modes, movement and weapons, which you press the W key to toggle between. Why? Anyway, in the 16-bit version, you launch a mini drone robot to go and mine all the stuff and track stuff, and you drive it across the surface. You don't do that here, so you don't have that. So at least not one I could find. So I'm guessing you don't have it. So here you're just generally using too much fuel all the time. The idea of the little mini drone robot is that you don't use all your fuel up. Mm-hmm. Sort of makes sense.
Yes,
because it's in the 16-bit versions, it's a resource management and strategy game, and it has that very heavily imbued in it. Not so much this version though. For reasons I'm not totally sure of, you can also press the Z key to flip your ship 180 degrees. It doesn't do anything. If you turn and face the other way, the same thing that's in the sky in front of you is then behind you, right? If you turn and face the other way, it's behind you. Oh, in this game, it's not.
No, it never moves.
The mothership is always there. So it's just, I hate that. So the game sees you fumbling around these keyboard commands and moving to the crosshairs on your joystick, shuffling left, right, backwards and forwards. The controls make no bloody sense whatsoever. Why not just use the joystick to move around? Spacebar to toggle between modes. That's just logic, isn't it? Too much logic in a game where none of it makes any sense anyway. You'll end up shooting at robotic ostriches, which seemingly have no method of engagement and one method of attack, which is to run directly at you like an ostrich would, I suppose, where for stupid reasons you can't actually back up enough sometimes to get away from them. So they just hover at the bottom of the screen and you can't shoot them there because you can't get your cursor down that far. So they just gather it. They go, nah. So you can't back off to shoot them. So you have to sort of go forward and avoid them to come back. It's really stupid. There's no radar, which would have really helped, like an elite type radar. On most of these games, they have that. This one doesn't. So you've got no idea where you are in context of this map, other than to press the M key, which doesn't tell you anything because this doesn't give you a view of the ground. It's just blackness with icons on it. That's not helpful. Can you imagine if Google Maps did that? I need to get to Manchester Airport, please. Just goes completely black and there's just a picture of Manchester Airport and a blackness. You're like, how do I get there? I see. Just go forward and back and shuffle around. You'll get there.
Use the Q&A key.
Q&A key. Go forward. So without that, it's next to impossible to really navigate anyway. But even if you did, you'll run out of fuel very quickly because that happens really fast, or you'll run out of everything quickly because you run out of missiles, you run out of weapons, everything's unlimited supply. Given there's a way to restore bases and mines, I'm not sure what part that plays in the overall game design. I think some of this is legacy 16-bit that they never really followed up in the 8-bit version. So there's parts that are there that have no purpose in this version because that part of the game is not in there, it's missing. And it's not explained in the manual or anything else. So the net result of all of this, it's a messy and dreary game that doesn't play properly. The graphics actually look reasonably well shaded and the effect of movement, okay, it's parallax scrolling and it sort of works. It's similar in the way the 16-bit does it. Not wholly dissimilar in that way, but the game is not explained at all in the instructions and it's wrapped in this crazy story that doesn't make any sense. It's completely incoherent and so is the controls in the game itself. You don't ever have a clue of what's happening, what ties it all together, what the purpose is. And I think because they've removed clearly some of the 16-bit parts that made the strategic resource management part make sense, the game has literally no sense to it. You are just wandering around. It's basically down to its core shooter logic part. And that isn't going to last long because you only have about 10 shots and then you're out. So after that, you're just sort of driving around aimlessly, going side to side like a crab, I imagine, looking at robot ostriches that running at you. And then you'll wonder why am I doing this? This is just a frustrating junk pile of a game and a real waste of time and certainly a waste of money. It got 22%. It's way too high. £9.95 for this monstrosity for a Melbourne House Signosis title. That's a lot of money for a poster that the guy that's they're claiming didn't draw. No. This is a fiasco of a release and it should be easily in the lower 10s, 10 or lower. Absolute crap. Terrible. A terrible thing. And I hated everything about it. So what about you?
Yeah. Do you remember back in January 1986? in episode 17, when we looked at Coronis Rift?
Yep.
A game that had you scavenging an alien landscape, fighting off enemies in 3D, all with the joystick.
Yep.
You know, going up and down, moving forward and backwards, blah, 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 upgrading your craft, feeding stuff to a really well-designed robot. You know, all that stuff that game was doing, fighting off stuff in proper 3D, hiding around mountains, doing all that kind of crazy stuff, all 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Remember all that? Now in January 1989, we have Terrorpods, a game that should not be, and pales into insignificance against something that came out 3 years ago. It's just every single way going.
Yep.
I mean, you move forward and backwards with Q&A, but the graphics don't change. So you don't move.
Nope.
You move on the map, but not in the visual. It's like, what? This is stupid. As deports go, it's a very bad one. How do we go from something so technically advanced as Coronis Rift, which sort of, we thought, look what, remember back, look what games can be on the C64. If we're doing this now, what are we going to get?
Yeah.
We get this. Oh, what happened? It's what makes me mad about these games. We've gone backwards. It's gone backwards rather than forwards.
Well, they are backward ports, though. I think that's the problem. These are just
it is,
these are deports.
But the whole point is that but I don't think this is even on the 16, but I don't think it's quite as interesting as something like Coronis Rift was. But if you think about something doing technically what Coronis Rift was with a 3D environment and fractals and all that kind of stuff, we should have been the machine could do it. We saw it.
Yep.
What could it be doing? 3 years of optimization, 3 years of pushing it forward. And what we've got is this, let's just try and put something that looks okay on the 16-bit machines back. It's just wrong.
Robot war ostriches.
Yeah, it's just stupid. And it's a crap game anyway. It's just bloody awful. And half it, like you said, half it's missing, and it's just a mess. And like you said, if I turn 180 degrees, I shouldn't be looking at the same thing.
Nope.
When I turn around in my house, I see a different wall. I don't have the same picture on the same thing and get confused. But
I'm going to do that, I think. I'm going to do that in my house. In one of the rooms, I'm just going to put the same picture on the wall. So which way I look, it's going to be the same. Like, where?
Where am I? I don't know.
Or paint an exact duplicate of the window on the opposite wall.
It's just doesn't happen. Oh, God. Yeah, 22% for this is dreadful. Oh, I hated this. It was a chore to play, painful in every way. Give me Coronis Rift any day of the week. Oh, there we go. That's Terrorpods. Let's move on. We've got one still left. Let's get to that before our pods are terrored. And our last one, well, this is Trivial Pursuit, A New Beginning.
Ooh.
This is 15 quid, Graham. It's got 83%.
Ooh.
So maybe this is all right. Maybe things have turned all right. This isn't the first stab at turning the classic board game into a computer game. There's obviously the Trivial Pursuit game on the C64 already. I think we looked at it, didn't we? But it's probably the first one that turns it into an intergalactic quest far into Earth's future, though.
Yes, it does give a bit of such of sci-fi.
It does, yes.
You've been listening to us.
I really have. Yes, this is Trivial Pursuit, A New Beginning from Domark. The concept for this was by Dominic Wheatley and Mark Strachan. Interestingly, right, some stuff I found out about Domark while researching this. Domark were bought by Eidos in 1990.
Yeah.
Eidos in 2009 were then bought by Square Enix, Final Fantasy, and all that kind of stuff. Which means that tracking backwards, Square Enix hold the rights to A View to a Kill on the C64. So I want my, Roger Moore's Brown Coat Adventure remake rather than Final Fantasy VII.
You know what to do.
I think they should. All those games by Domark, Square Enix own. Anyway, also Dominic Wheatley is Dennis Wheatley, author of Devil Rides Out Son.
Okay, that makes sense.
There you go. Anyway, so that was interesting. It was designed by Paul Holmes. It was developed by David Emma Pringle, Richard T. Horrocks, Kevin R. Eyre, Andrew Thompson, Jason Kingsley, who I believe then went on to form Rebellion, quite big, Jeff Quilley, and James Cowling. A lot of names attached to this. Been a while, but there you go. So yes, this is another take on the very famous and ubiquitous board game Trivial Pursuit, but it has a story now. The year is 2045, and the Earth has been decimated by pollution and is now a dying planet. However, 6 of you have access to cool rockets and take to the stars to head for Genus 2. It's kind of handy, isn't it? Where you can live a life of, where one of you can live a life of luxury, and the others are fed to the Genus people, I guess. Only the smartest amongst you can make it, and to do this, you must pass through various galaxies and collect objects to prove your intellectual worth. Only when all 6 have been collected and the correct answer given to the Genus 2 elders will you be accepted into their big brain society. There you go. So when the game loads, you can enter up to 6 players' names, so you can have up to 6 players, 1 to 6. Once done, you can start a game. You can look at the stats of each player, but probably best to wait until you've actually played a game to do this, otherwise it's just going to be nothing. You can turn the timer on, so you can have no timer, or you can have a timer that goes from 5 seconds to 9 minutes to answer the questions in. 9 minutes is quite a long time, I thought, to answer a question. You can also choose to turn the music, graphics, and sound effects off or on, and a weird option to use the Commodore font, which if you choose, you can't come back from. That's like
Nobody does.
Once you've used the Commodore font, you can't get back to the nicer font that the game came with.
So that's the T-shirt waiting to happen, that.
True. Anyway, once you've sorted everything out, it's time to play. The game starts with all the players. When you pick up you get an odd little creature as your sort of avatar, and it starts with them all in a line, waiting for the character TP, who is the question master from the first version of Trivial Pursuit, to ask them a question. Asking questions here is very much built on the honor system, as the questions are asked, and then you have to say the answer out loud. So this is like Trivial Pursuit, essentially. You don't pick an answer; you have to say it. You have to know it. Once you say it, once you've guessed it or whatever, you press fire to reveal the answer, and then there's a little tick or a cross, and you confirm whether you got it right or wrong. Okay, so it's playing with other people. You've got to be honest, and they'll pull you up. Someone will do it for you. If you get it right, then your character hops out of the room that you're in, and you can be seen in the background. There's like a rocket in the background, and this rocket, you see this little car go out towards it. Your character sort of goes up in the lift, and you get in the rocket, and then the rocket takes off into space. And it's here that the game takes a turn for the different. Instead of the usual board that we get to see in these games, we select our question from a series of coloured planets. Each one and each one has a question from the various categories of Trivial Pursuit, such as history, science and nature, geography, art and literature, sport and leisure, and entertainment. On one of these planets, you won't know which, so you have to keep going through them until you find the right one, will be one of the objects you need to find. Answering the question correctly on that planet will hyperspace you to the next galaxy, where you need to find the next. You need to find the next object by choosing a planet, answering questions. If you get it right, you keep going on and sort of thing. So if you get a question wrong, it goes back to the next player who's at home base, and if they get out, they get into space, and so on and so forth. So that's how this works. What happens is you've got to work your way through the galaxies until someone has all 6 objects, and then they are automatically warped to Genus 2. Here at Genus 2, 6 large-headed green dudes sort of line up on a sort of like a jury, they sort of file in and they line up like a jury. And you have to select which one you want to ask you a question. And one of these is the key to winning. All the other 5 will just ask you a question. So if you pick the right one, then the other players get to choose a category to ask a question to you from, kind of like Trivial Pursuit. If you get to the middle, and the other players go, right, no, science and literature, science and nature, whatever, ask a question on that, whatever it is. If you don't get the right one, it just asks you a random question until you get through. Should you answer the question that's been picked to you from, the choice, if on the right one, then you are the winner. Well done. And you've reached Genus 2 and you're the winner, and the game ends, and that's it. So essentially, it is Trivial Pursuit. They've just changed around the visuals and bits and bobs. So it's Trivial Pursuit in some new clothes, really, some sci-fi clothes. The questions are decent enough. The typical Trivial Pursuit style questions from the late 1980s. So again, this does date it slightly, but enough of them, it's not all bad. A lot of them are they are what they are. I answered quite a lot of them, so I did all right. Some of them are visual, though. Some are oral. So it'll play you a little tune, like who wrote this tune. It might be a piece of classical music, and you have to answer and things like that. Or there'll be a picture. What is this? And you have to answer and things like that. So again, like I said, it's all on the honor system. So you get it wrong, you got to say, no, I got it wrong. And then that's the end of your go. The story is odd. Doesn't really add much. And the various planets, I don't know, and the odd creatures that ask the questions, I'm not sure about it. It's okay, I guess. The graphics themselves, they're functional. There's some nice little animations about the place. The characters are weird and alien-esque. They're sort of slimy worms or wiggly bits and things in your little avatars are okay. The tunes are pretty basic, sort of single channel, like, it'll be like dee 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 dee, like, that. Recognizable, So they work. They've not tried to gild a lily. They're just like, you'll know this. We're just going to give you the basic tune. And it hangs together well. And, it all moves at a decent pace. It's on a single load. There are extra questions to load in as well. So that's quite good. It is 15 quid, though, for the tape version, which does seem a tad expensive, maybe, as the disc version is 20 quid as well. Like I said, there's loads of extra questions. There's no shortage of content. But it's whether, back then or now, would you get everyone crowded around the TV for a game of this rather than the standard board game? I guess that's the real question here. I mean, with the questions being on the honor system, playing on your own is a completely pointless endeavor unless you're really honest and have multiple avatars. So you can't. This game is not a single player game. It's not. So it all comes down to whether you felt at the time you could get people to buy into this version of it. I guess it's pretty good for what it is. It plays okay. It's Trivial Pursuit. It works. The questions are there. There's stuff to collect, what have you. There's some difference with the sort of visuals and sound questions. But then, it keeps the formula the same and has some music. Like I said, for a tenner, I think it would have been a good alternative. I think 15 quid was too expensive for the tape version. And I'm not really sure it needed the sci-fi wrappings. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I think they've done, they've just tried to sort of differentiate it to try and release a new version and charge for it. But it's Trivial Pursuit. If you like Trivial Pursuit games, it's a good one. It's all right. Yeah. What did you think?
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, it plays similarly to the first one, doesn't it, really? With that sci-fi twist. I think it's quite good in the way it works. I mean, I can see this working quite well in multiplayer. I like the honor system. I think that's a good way of doing it because that means you're not scrambling for answers or hammering buttons or doing something.
Or having to type stuff incorrectly in the short space time.
Exactly. I think, and we said that about the first variant of this, that system does work well. So you just got to be honest, which isn't, you've got to be that in the original game, the board game. Mm-hmm. Graphics and characters are okay. They're all right. They lift it a bit. I think it's a little bit different to the board game, which is, and for multiplayer experience, it makes it feel more like a computer version than it would be if you were doing it any other way. The niggle I have is the same niggle I had for the first one. I come back to the same issue. The board game's probably more fun and probably a little bit more accessible.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't need a £200 Commodore 64 and all that stuff to play it. You just need a board game. So it's a lot less for the same money and the same fun. A lot less for the same fun. I mean, I suppose maybe this was leverage for anyone that was still trying to convince their folks that they could have a great family computer and it would really work really. Who knows about that? But as it goes, it's quite expensive what it is. But there's all the questions are packed in there. It's all right. It's all right. I can see where they're pitching it, and it kind of lands in that space. I think the score's probably a little high for something like this, really, in Zapped. But it's of its type. It's not a bad one. So I thought it was all right. No, I quite like Trivial Pursuit games. Quiz games are okay. But I do like the fact that it's not reliant on you typing in word for word perfect things and knowing the answers. And I like that. So, yeah, I thought it was all right. Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, same here. There we go. And that's it. That's it for this week. That's our 7 games. What have we looked at this week? Well, we have looked at, let me just get my list open. I can't even remember. We looked at Operation Wolf, which was exactly as expected to be on the C64, really. But as good as it could be, I think. I think as good as it could be, really. Your mileage with that depends on how much you like Operation Wolf, I guess. Artura, which is as bad as it could be.
Awful.
Gary Lineker's Superskills, only one half of which worked, and it was utterly pointless. Utterly pointless skills game.
Game bad.
Game bad, indeed. Most sports shenanigans, but by fair means are foul, which is purple.
Yeah.
Purple boxers. It's bad. Serve and Volley, which was slow. A nice idea, but slow.
Too slow it was.
Slow. Terrorpods, which was just dreadful. Bloody dreadful.
Confusing massive stupidity.
Yeah, rubbish. Finally, Trivial Pursuit: A New Beginning, which is good. It was passable.
Passable enough, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, for what it was, probably the best of the bunch, all told. So there you go.
Crazy as that is, yeah.
I know. But, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So that's it for this week. And our first lot of games from 1989. Who knew? This is what we've come to. This is what it has all come to these days. Next week, we're back. We've got the rest of the games from January 1989. So things like Pac-Mania.
Okay.
Roy the Rovers. I don't remember much Pac-Mania, but I remember the game in the arcade, but not the C64 version. Roy the Rovers. I'm not sure that's going to be good. Game Over 2. That's just going to be hard, isn't it?
Yes.
Star Trek: The Rebel Universe.
Oh, dear.
Risk, Quick Game of Risk.
Okay.
Fast Break, whatever that
Sounds
is.
like a snooker game.
Yeah, probably. And finally, Caveman Olympics.
Oh, no. Themed Olympiad games. They're back.
What was that one where we had to run up a wall?
Don't. I'm just having nightmares about these stupid games. I thought we'd seen the last of them off.
No, I know there's. No, was it Western Games? Western Games is another one.
Games.
There was what was the one? What was the one we had to
Blood and
run up a
Guts
wall?
as well.
Was it Alternative World Games or something?
Alternative Word Games, Blood and Guts, remember as well.
Yeah, I think there's more to come.
Oh
I think
no!
there's more to come.
Who woke that genie out of his bottle?
I don't know, but it's back in caveman form.
Oh, dear me, no.
Who knows? Yes, we've got that coming up next week. If you wish to support the podcast, you can do that if you wish to do that. Obviously, tweet and share and do all that kind of stuff, and that's cool. If you wish to support us financially, you can do that. You can go to kofi.com/Zapped to the past and buy us a Kofi. That would be cool. Or you can join our Patreon. There are two. You can chip in £1 and that gets our unending thanks. Or you can go for the full fat experience, which is about £4.50, £5, whatever that is. You get access to the episodes earlier, ad free, without you get them earlier. You get them, what else? You get access to our Discord server, get included in our Ask the Podcast and end of year reviews and all those kind of things. So if you want to do that, then go over to patreon.com/Zapped to the past, and you can get in on all that. So that would be cool. Our first experience of 1989, is it boding well?
No, it's not. I didn't start as it means to go on.
Well, you never know.
Please
do you?
let there be some games come along and rescue. No more Arturas, no more stupid Terrorpods.
We'll see. We'll see what happens next week.
I feel like I've been kicked in the Terrorpods.
That's the joke I was trying to make. It does sound like aching balls.
It does, yeah.
Right, yeah. So I think we'll head off. We'll leave you. There you go. We started. 1989 has begun. Let's see where it goes from here. We'll be back again next week. As ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Terrorpod Raddings.
And you have been listening to Zapped Past. And we will see you again next week. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.